Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate everybody being here. Uh, Missed you guys. I miss uploading and just being here with the community. So hopefully we can present this video. Hopefully you guys like it. I was gonna edit it a little bit more, but I was like, nah, let me just do it more for like freestyle, so I don't take so long editing and stuff. So I appreciate you guys being here. I got my brother JC here in the building too. So he's here help me out with any side commentary or any questions or anything like that. Also to put on his give his 2 cents, his insight as well. So what we're learning today. So yeah, appreciate him being here as well. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. All right, we're gonna get started. Hey JC, how's the music? Is that too loud? Because and everybody in the chat, please let me know if it's too loud, because from me it always sounds really low, and then when I rehear it, it sounds really loud. So let me know if it's
actually you can turn it up just a little bit. It's actually kind of, I can on my end you sound real clear, but I can barely hear the music.
Yeah, well, for us we'll hear it low. But they hear it loud. That's how usually. I don't know why Zoom does that, but yeah. Let me again, if it's too loud, the music, just let me know, so make sure you guys can hear me. All right, again, thanks for being here. Get on with this. All right, so wanted to start with this right here real quick. It's again the book that we've gone over before. It's the Observations Concerning the Increase of Mankind and Peopling of Countries by Benjamin Franklin. And this one says 1755, but I guess it was written in 1751. Just realized, but this particular one was published in 1755. All right, and I just want to remind everybody, what has been said, before, and by who. So I want to read from here. It says, and since detachment of English from Britain sent to America will have their places of home so soon supplied and increased so largely here, why should the Palatine Boers be suffered to swarm into our settlements? And Boers, I mean like the poor people, peasants. And he's saying, why should these German people be allowed to come? Like why we bringing so many over here? That's what Benjamin Franklin is saying, right? And why should we be suffered to swarm into our settlements, and by herding together establish their languages and manners to the exclusion of ours? Why should Pennsylvania, founded by the English, become a colony of aliens who will shortly be so numerous as to Germanize us instead of our Anglifying them? So he's saying, whoa, we should be Anglifying them instead of getting Germanized. What does he mean by that? And we'll never adopt our language or customs any more than they can acquire our complexion. All right, so Benjamin Franklin is saying, they're not even our complexion, right? So he's talking about Germans, but I thought they were all white. I thought he was white. I thought Germans was white. What is he talking about? So I know we've read this before and we know what he means. So yeah, he's letting us know straight up that Germans are not the same complexion as what he is in his time. Which leads me to add one remark. He says that the number of purely white people in the world, all right, is proportionally very small. All Africa's black or tawny. Asia chiefly tawny. All right, so again, all Africa is black or tawny. Asia chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers. So America instead of the new people, other than the new people, it's holy. So holy what? Black or tawny. Holy black or tawny America. And in Europe, the Spaniards, the Italians, the French, the Russians, and the Swedes are generally of what we call a swarthy complexion, as are the Germans also. The Saxons only accepted who, with the English, make the principal body of the white people on the face of the earth. So according to Benjamin Franklin, his people, who he's saying are the English, but we know there's also Black Britain, so whatever English he's talking about, and Anglo-Saxons, he says. But we're gonna read today if the Anglo-Saxons were really always white, you know. But according to him in his time, that's what he's saying is the only white people on the earth, on the face of the earth. All right, they're a minority. He says, I could wish their numbers were increased. I wish we were more. I wish we were more deep. And while we are, as I may call it, scoring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making this side of our globe reflect a brighter light. All right, so they're clearing our woods. What? Taking down our woods and making this a brighter light, making it more light. What does he mean by that? In the eyes of the inhabitants of Mars or Venus, all right, his ancestors, what is he talking about? Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, all right, so who's the superior beings? Kyo put me onto that. So why should we, in the sight of superior beings, who's the superior beings he's talking about? Guess who he's talking about? Anybody in the chat guess? Who's the superior beings he's talking about? In the sight of superior beings, darken its people. All right, he's talking about you, superior beings. Why are we gonna keep darkening our people? He's saying, why are we bringing all these swarthy Europeans, over here? You wanted to say anything, something, JC?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm reading this and I'm thinking, wait a minute, he's either talking about the indigenous people. Why increase? Okay, he said why increase this? He said excluding all the blacks and tawnies, increasing whites and reds. Wait a minute, way back up there, he says calling them where you was reading at right here. Read that again.
Yeah. So why should we? You mean like
Go ahead.
lightened?
Yes, go ahead.
All right. So it says, yeah. So making the sight of the globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of the inhabitants of Mars and Venus. Why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people?
Now, I'm sitting there thinking two people. Some people gonna say he's talking about God, okay? But when he says in the sight of his superior beings, I'm like, wait a minute, is he talking about the indigenous population? You got some people gonna say he's talking about God, but he says beings. So
Well,
he ain't beings. He's talking about some people.
well, he's the newcomers. They're the newcomers.
Real talk.
More deep. Where there was more indigenous people. There's deeper. So the
Exactly.
sight of
So he's
superior
not. So
beings.
he's not talking about some spiritual God that somebody's talking about out of a Bible. He's when he says in the sight of superior beings, he has to be talking about some human beings. So he has to be talking about the indigenous
Yeah,
population.
indigenous population. And he's saying, why should we darken it some more? Right? Because he just said America was wholly tawny, wholly black. He's saying, I wish we had more numbers of us light skinned people. So why should we darken it some more? Right? And why increase the sons of Africa or people of color? What he's saying, by planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red? Question mark. But perhaps I'm partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind partially is natural to mankind.
I like. I want to comment on. I like that part you was talking about. Where he's talking about bringing Africans over here because that's another a valid point of them trying to. When they were trying to reverse the culture
Yeah.
from the indigenous, those who they call the Negroes, but the indigenous colored people of America by bringing Africans over here, doing that culture reversal thing, and by, saying we're from there. So that lets you know that there was something they were considering by what you just read.
Yep. So I wanted to get started with some books I had here for a while, just for a long time actually. I wanted to do these videos on so-called Black Europeans and everything. I know a lot of people have already talked about this and mentioned this a lot of times. We know. I mean, most of the people in this chat are very wise and they know, that Europe was swarthy as well. But sometimes we just gotta put it in people's head and show the sources, right? Because they was asking for sources and all that, and so we got to put this all together. So I grabbed a couple sources. This is might be just part one because there's so many, like there's so many. So I want to start out with this one. This one you can find in archive.org, as I'm showing you here. Riddles of Prehistoric Times by James H. Anderson. All right, Riddles of Prehistoric Time, J. H. Anderson. All right, the primitive man. All right. So he says hunting was the earliest occupation of man. Hunters were a wandering class of men who subsisted on what they could kill. They were brute-like and cruel, lived in constant warfare, their only ideas being to procure food for subsistence. All right, so this is all his opinion and stuff, right? But he says down here in this paragraph, says the first men were probably small stature, dark skinned with dark hair, and eyes with small heads, longer from front to back, then across low foreheads with projecting ridges around the eyes, powerful jaws, strong teeth, and with arms and legs adapted to climbing trees. All right, so he's I think he's trying to go with the monkey thing, but he's letting us know that in his history, what he has researched, that it seems that the first men were probably small in stature and dark skinned with dark hair, dark skin with dark hair. Continue here. He says, the Iberians in ancient times inhabited the western and southern part of Europe, the northern part of Africa, in fact, all parts reached from the Mediterranean Sea, the Basque in Spain and France, the little dark Welshmen, the Scotch and black Celts to the west of the Shannon River in Ireland, as well as the same kind of men in Brittany and Aquitaine in France, the Guanches of the Canary Islands, and the Berbers in Africa are all probably the remnants of the race. Right? So he's grouping all these people to the same people. Says the Teuton inhabited the country north of the Iberians. He was phlegmatic in temperament and dual. All right, so this is a nice talking about here. This is the screenshot I got here. It says the first inhabitants in Italy were of the race which has been called Iapygian. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It says a small dark people like the Bushmen. They were gradually driven before the people who invaded the land from the north until they were concentrated in the southern part of the country in what is known as the Hill of Italy. They had a peculiar language differing from all other languages. All right, and it says these remains some monuments made by them. Oh, there remain, sorry, some monuments made by them upon which inscriptions were made, as yet indecipherable. A few of the several thousand nurhags scattered over the island of Sardinia have been examined. There was found a well-like construction from the surface in circular shape. Some of them are 3 stories deep, supplied with stone steps, having a quarter chamber at the bottom, which was evidently constructed for the for and used as temples of worship. Images are found in them, usually a female with a child in her arm. You hear that? So a female with a child in her arm, right? What is the first thing you think? Like Mary, right? And Jesus, or then you go back to Isis and Horus, or I mean even further back. All right, so they saying they're finding this there, right? With these first people that they're finding, and these islands in Sardinia, right, of Italy. And it says again that the female with a child in her arm and a priest with a symbol of his vocation in his heart containing phallic emblems. All right, the phallic. The structures are similar to those found among the cliff dwellers and the Sunni Indians in New Mexico and Arizona, constructed after the similar pattern, both indicating the worship of Iris, the Egyptian goddess, or Isis. I think they mean the Egyptian goddess. All right, both who? The Sunni Indians in Mexico and Arizona. All right. So, real quick, just this is a tomb. It says here in Bacanti and Tarquinia. All right, you can look that up.
Yeah, just want to point out also. You pointed out I mean you got a lot of information right here, a lot of information.
Yeah.
You just pointed out also, and that something that I plan on touching on. I haven't done it yet, but I'm putting it together. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to put this together because I don't want to give the people too much information and burn people out. Because this is something that I've been studying for a very long time: matriarchy, matrilocal, and matrifocal indigenous peoples. And you just pointed out the goddess. You just mentioned some tribes, the Zuni, and how it was many tribes. And in fact, all the Aboriginal tribes, the woodland Aboriginal tribes, were matrilocal, matrifocal, and matriarchal. And I'm not just talking about far as handing down generations and chiefs being descended from, you got to come from a beloved mother. I'm talking about even their spiritual worship was goddesses. And so you got some good information, right? I just want to point that out. That's a lot of good information.
Yeah, definitely. And of course, I have other videos where we try to link all that up, and I got a lot of good videos coming on that. Show how these old world mythology, religion, or whatever you want to call it, traditions, ceremonies. You can find most of them here with the Aboriginals in America. So working on that as well, so we can show that correlation. And much love and respect to all the people in the chat, everybody out there who's in this journey, who's been helping everybody, who's also teaching and sharing information. I'm one of those students that's been able to receive that knowledge, that water, and I'm very grateful, and try to put my interpretation of it and help out in my way, and everybody appreciates this. So everybody, all the scholars out there, and teachers and students as well, in the chats, big up to yourselves. So it says here, next came the Etruscans, who were more highly civilized. They were an Aryan race, but did not resemble their neighbors in language or manners. They came from the northeast. They were short, thick-set, with large round heads and slender limbs. They were peaceable and engaged in agriculture and trade. They cultivated the arts and became a highly civilized people before the time of history. The Iberians in ancient times inhabited the western and southern part of Europe, the northern part of Africa. In fact, all parts reached from the Mediterranean Sea. The Basque in Spain and France, the little dark Welshmen, the Scotch and black Celts to the west of the Shannon River in Ireland, as well as the same kind of men in Brittany and Aquitaine in France, the Guanches of the Canary Islands, and the Berbers in Africa are all probably remnants of the same race. And it says here the first Romans were black people called the Etruscans. This is from RomaTimes.news. All right, the first Romani were black people called the Etruscans. Much love and respect to Condrop for the Wada, the Romani. Who's the Romani? We're gonna get into a little bit of that a little bit later, but we'll get more in depth in other videos. But we'll talk about them.
And I'm gonna come. The Etruscans are the ancient Italians. That's who the Etruscans are. They're the ancient Black Italians. That's why if you actually when you do a little research on the ancient on the Italian people, you'll find out that eventually they split up into two separate groups. Which one group was called the Sicilians. The Sicilians kind of retained a lot of that ancient melanated blood, and you because at one time the Sicilians used to be very dark, whereas the Italians became very light as they started mixing with a lot of European bloodline, and that's how you got the. Now today you see a lot of Sicilians look no different than their Italian brothers, but if you go back and read some information on it, you'll find out that they split up into two groups, but originally they were one people called the ancient Etruscans before they became the Italians.
Nice. And it says here, like right under that, says the first humans on Earth were black people. And since that is so and has been proven by historians, scientists, and archaeologists, it is safe to agree that black people dominated many parts of Europe for thousands and hundreds of years before the European Caucasians moved in. And here's a better picture of that. All right, these are historic, and this is actually frescoes from the actual walls from the temples. This is an actual statue of pottery made on the left, and this is a what you call a mosaic uh, piece right there, probably a ceiling or floor, Etruscan. All right, this is a statue from 550 BC. All right, these are little. Let me see if I can. All right, Etruscan relief 600 BC. All right. Oh man, let's not show that too much. I might get. And then
Oh, okay now.
yeah, man, it's Etruscan Anafix 500 BC. All right, these are all
Look at that
historic.
brother. Look at
Yeah,
that brother.
and then we got this right here, Roman bronze, circa 800. 100 AD, Museum of Fine Arts in Lyon, France. All right. Another piece right here. You can see the hair. All right. And it says from the Antoine Babson Carthage Hermaches pillars topped by the head of the god Hermes, protective injunctions which were widespread in the Roman world. The head of Hermes? What do they mean, the head of Hermes? The head of Thoth? What are you talking about? And we got another fresco right here. Etruscan, you can even see what appears to be a blonde, pale skinned person, just so you can see the difference. All right, and we got another fresco right here. All right, he's doing his little Tai Chi, you know. I don't know what he's doing, but this is ancient right here. All right, Etruscan. So they ever show you an Etruscan like this when you were little? With lobster hands. What's up with the lobster hands? All right, this is Greek vases. If you go back to, if you just Google ancient Greek vases or pottery, you'll notice a lot of the times the gods are always very they're dark skinned there, and you'll always see a difference. Uh, they'll depict pale skinned people. They'll depict them and they'll depict their gods and Hercules and all these other heroes who are basically what you call black, right? But basically interpreting a dark complexion. All right, and there's another vase just for example. And a lot of these had red hair. And a lot of these had red hair, and there were people, so-called Negroes with red hair. Red hair doesn't originate with white people, and that's why people get confused sometimes and think, oh, you must have white in you because you got red hair, and it's not always so. All right, so these are depictions. There goes the fresco again, the Etruscan. Got another one right here. All right, so we got Benjamin Franklin again. We already got this. Now, basically wanted to show. I've had this for a while. This is like, a lot of people see those family crests and the websites or internet. Well, this is one of the books that has those crests that contains those images. I have the other books, probably showed in other videos. This is the crest of Great Britain and Ireland, Dominion of Canada, India, and Australasia. Australasia. What do they mean by that? Get that, Australia and what's it called? Australasia or Australius, Antarctica drop. Derived from best authorities and family records. All right, this is an official, the Barnes or Fairbairns crest, family crest. All right, collection. This is one of them right here. All right, the Archer. Now, if you go to the book, you can see what family it is. Number 5, it'll tell you in the book. You can go check it out. All right. These ain't slaves. These are family crest. You know. All right. And so this is an example of one of the pages. Just wanted to show you guys. I zoomed in into some of them. The whole book is filled with this. All right. And this is a close-up of number 7. All right. So what I've been trying to tell everybody is, so what happened to all these dynastic so-called black families and all these dark Welsh and these swarthy Europeans? That they just disappear and go to Africa? Is that what we're gonna believe? Is that what we're logically gonna say? And because when we're talking about indentured servitude and Europeans coming over here, I'm not just talking about light-skinned, pale Europeans. I'm talking about what they were calling the Black Dutch, the Swarthy Germans, the Black Irish, the Black Scots. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands, hundreds and thousands, I'm telling you. we've got the numbers. If you, in case you haven't seen my videos of white servitude, indentured servitude, and I got a lot more coming. And it's just overwhelming the amount of so-called black Europeans that were sent over here to work in plantations, tobacco, sugar plantations, to be, as convict prisoners of war, these Jacobites and all that. I'm going to show you today the muster rolls. All right, we're gonna show you what they look like, what they're described as. All right, and you want to chip in, JC?
Yeah, yeah.
Anything?
I'm hoping they're getting what you're pointing out to them. These are family crests. I'm sitting here looking at this, and I'm impressed because I've never seen these. And a family crest is something that is a symbol that goes from generation to generation, that proves that you are connected or that you are related biologically to that family, and that you have a right to whatever that family's wealth, or whatever that family possession, or whatever that family's property, whatever that family has obtained or restored for generations. And I'm like, wow, these are family crests. I mean, I'm gonna tell you something what it's telling me, okay, from what I know from the research that I've done. Now, it's possibly that these families are still here. that's that's what
Yeah.
a family crest is not something that you say, okay, oh, that's something that,
All,
oh, that
all, all,
once existed. You know what I mean? That's
all,
not
all these
something.
families are alive today. All these
Exactly.
families.
Exactly. That's what first thing I'm like. And when you say where are these families, okay, there's a whole lot to come to my mind. I mean, the Boule, okay, because a lot of the people in the Boule are not just indigenous Negroes from America. A lot of the people in the Boule are also African Americans. And so I'm also thinking about, you still got a lot of families, wealthy families, that are not even seen on television here. But if you do research, you can
We're
find
gonna
them in work, who are still living in Europe, and they're so-called
well,
black families
we're
who are
gonna we're
wealthy.
gonna we're gonna cover all that, and then who these people and important abolitionists and famous so-called black leaders and what their genealogy is. And a lot of people's gonna be shocked. And you mentioned the Boule. Well, I'm gonna show you some of its founders, who they are. All right. So what's their genealogy? So this is not a conspiracy video here, but right now we're trying to show history, right? We ain't talking about conspiracies. If right, I got in the screen right now again. It's from the very famous Family Crest book of Great Britain. All right. And so again, this is what you find in this book. Different crests. All right. And we're gonna zoom into a couple of them again. All right. Now, when I be saying, "Do you remember who you are?" All right, we're all in the journey, right? We're all learning. I'm a student too. Doesn't mean I got all the answers just because I got all these videos and I'm reading all these books. I'm continuing to learn, and I'm starting to see a bigger picture here, a real bigger picture. All right, and I hope that everybody understands what I'm saying and showing. All right, and I'm not saying this is a large percentage of what you and your family, but I'm saying is everybody got to do their own genealogy, find out, because they grouped a lot of people together and called them so-called Negroes. They grouped a lot of people together, called them mulatto. Grouped a lot of people together and called them white. So this is another crest right here. Yes, these crests are associated to surnames. In the book I showed in the beginning, the 9 will show you or you could just go to Google right now if you like, and you put black families, family crest, Europe, black Europe, family crest. You'll see them. They'll pop up. So again, but I just wanted to go straight to the source because a lot of people, would say, well, that's how do we know that's real? And we got this from the archives. They scanned that book. Whether I mean, they knew we were gonna do this. I mean, so they must want us to learn. or you say, you think when they say let's scan all these university and all these old primary sources, you don't think they were like, well, what if they start reading them? Because we never read these books before. We never even saw them before. And you know, what did they say? How do you hide time from the so-called Naga? Right? What did they say? They say put it in a book, right? That's the joke they always use. Well, we didn't even have access to the books. Before, I'd had to travel to England to go to their library to get one specific book. Then I'd have to go to Harvard to get another one. Who can do that? Who can travel around the world to these different libraries in India and Egypt and all that, right? And well, you know who did and kept all this knowledge to themselves, because some people did do that. They had the means and the finance and the hookup connections, right, to be able to do that, but not, not us. All right. So the seals are open. Was this the triune? Number 14. This means something, though. All right. Again, this is what it looks like. Again, this is the Royal Book of Crests of Great Britain and Ireland, Dominion of Canada, India, and Australasia, derived from the best authorities and family records by James Fairbairn. All right. 1883. 1883. All right. And what I'm showing you now right here, if you don't know, somebody might know already by what do you think this is, JC?
Wow. From what I see, looking at the crest itself, and what I'm seeing on the armor, I mean on the shield. Wow. I would have to say that's an indigenous European crest from Europe. So it has to be an indigenous. It has to be a European family.
So this is from the Benedict order of the popes. So Ratzinger, this is his crest. This is the crest he brought to the Vatican when he became pope, because
Wow.
that's the Benedict line, because the original Benedicts were just like how you see the person on this.
That's his family crest.
That's the Benedict, yeah, line. Yep.
Wow. I mean, I'm looking at all the symbols on it, and it's beautiful too.
Yep. Yeah. All right. And the keys, because they got the keys, right? The scepter.
Yeah.
The scepter. That's the keys. Coat of arms of Pope Benedict. Says the personal papal coat of arms of Pope Benedict was designed by Archbishop Andrea Cordero Lanza di Montesembano, who was later created a cardinal soon after the papal election in 2005. All right. The coat of arms of Pope Benedict. All right. Coat of arms of His Holiness Benedict. Armor bearings have been in common use by soldiers and the nobility since the Middle Ages. This has given rise to a very specific heraldic language to regulate and describe civic heraldry. And this very last image right here is guided from the Vatican website. All right, what we have here. All right, this is Byzantine Emperor Manuel I Comnenus and his second wife Maria of Antioch, Vatican Library. All right. See the difference in complexion. All right. What do we have here? Ancient clay figure found at Hibernia Wharf, London. An ancient clay figure from London. Got a coin here. It says King Offa of Mercia. Silver penny. The Kingdom of Mercia was an important state in the English Midlands from the 6th century of the 10th to the 10th. For some 200 years, from the mid-7th century onwards, it was the dominant member of the Heptarchy and consequently the most powerful of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. During this period, his rulers became the first English monarchs to assume such wide-ranging title as King of Britain and King of the English. Got another coin here. Coin of Aethelberth, King of East Anglia, in runic script, died in 794. Got another one, says Edward the Elder, 899 to 924, son of Alfred the Great. And we got here King Edward the Peaceful, 943 to 975, All Souls College Chapel, Oxford, from the mid 1400s. Got another image right here. All right. See her braid. This is Berengaria of Navarre, Queen of England, as the wife of Richard I. She was the eldest daughter of Sancho VI of Navarre and Sancho of Castile. There's a lot of Morisco influence, Moorish influence in Navarre, in Spain. And this is Jean d'Albert, Queen Joan III of Navarre, showing obvious bloodline with Berengaria of Navarre. Was also known as Jean III d'Albret. She was the queen remnant of Navarre from 1555 to 1572. She married Antoine de Bourbon, Duke of Vendôme, and was the mother of Henry of Bourbon, who became King Henry III of Navarre and King Henry IV of France, the first Bourbon king of France. She became the Duchess of Vendôme by marriage. She was the acknowledged spiritual and political leader of the French Huguenot. All right, again, she was the acknowledged spiritual and political leader of the French Huguenot movement and a key figure in the French wars of religion. Huguenot. She's a Huguenot. All right, and I'll keep saying that. I'm gonna do a video on them. But I want you guys to see. Basically, what I'm going to show is that a lot of these Huguenots are going back, when I'm doing my research, to Swarthy people, dark-skinned people, these French Huguenots. All right, you can see she's an example. You see her hair, even though she looks light-skinned. All right, we got right here. You can see the image. Who's this Prester? So this is a medieval miniature of Edward III of England. The king is wearing a blue garter of the Order of the Garters over his plate armor between 1430 and 1440. All right. All right, we got another image here. Extract from the 60 long Westminster tournament roll. John Blanky, a black trumpeter, was a regular musician at the courts of both Henry the Seventh and Henry the Eighth. Musicians' payments were noted in the accounts of the treasurer of the chamber, who was responsible for paying the wages. As you can see, clear difference in complexion of these people. All right, what does it say here? Let's read it. It says, and then there is his impact on his country. All right, so they're talking about Oliver Cromwell and what he did to the Irish and the Scottish and how in England too, how he took over certain people and imprisoned them, murdered them, and sent them to the Americas or other prison camps or whatever. It says, and then there is an impact on this country's artistic intellectual heritage. No one can be sure of the exact figure, but it is estimated that the destruction started and legalized by Cromwell amounted to 97% of the English art then in existence. Statues were hacked down. Frescoes were smashed to bits. Mosaics were pulverized. Illuminated manuscripts were shredded. Wooden carvings were burnt. Precious metalwork was melted down. Shrines were reduced to rubble. This vandalism went away beyond the religious reform. It was a frenzy, obliterating the artistic patrimony of centuries of indigenous craftsmanship, with an intensity of hatred for imagery and depicting the divine that has strong and resonant parallels today. It could only be a good thing that people are again thinking about Cromwell, because as we look to the east, to the fanatics that is sacking the coast, all right, so they're going to go on. So basically what they're saying is when Cromwell was doing all that, he was also destroying all the art, all these images, all this stuff that was going on. They were destroying this. And we know that happened massively all over Europe, different peoples. All right, so Cromwell was one of them. All right, things like this being hidden. Edward VI on a silver sixpence, There were at least 4 different coins issued during the brief 6-year reign of Edward VI. All right, Edward VI from Lancashire, England.
Look like a brother to me.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then we got Joan, Archduchess of Austria, Infanta of Castile and Aragon, Princess of Burgundy and Flanders, second daughter of the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. So I know for a fact she's, person of color because Charles V was a person of color. He was a so-called Negro. Yes, Charles V, the Holy Roman Emperor. We're gonna show his image, I believe, soon. All right, this is his daughter. All right. All right, so we got something here on Elizabeth. I think Elizabeth. Let me see what it says here. The life of Elizabeth I. Down here it says Elizabeth was 25 years old at her ascension. She was tall and very slender with a tiny waist, small bosom, and beautiful long-fingered hands, which it pleased her vanity to display to advantage in variety of affected poses. She had a swarthy olive complexion, like that of her mother. Swarthy olive, a black, so-called black olive complexion, like that of her mother, although she made a habit of whitening it with a lotion made of egg whites, powdered eggshells, poppy seeds, borax, and alum, which made her face appear white and luminous. All right, so Elizabeth I was swarthy. All right, who's this fella?
Look like another brother.
Now, see that wig fits him, right? Because then when you see it on like Benjamin Franklin and all these people, man, you're like, what's going on? You know. So this is Louis de Rouvroux, Duke of Saint Simon, born in Paris. Of a family of ancient nobility, he was educated a gentleman and was a musketeer at age 16. Later, he entered the service of Philippe, Duke of Orleans. Saint Simon gives this portrait of Philippe, who was a oh wow, it says homosexual. Right now, I don't know how he knows all that, but Monsieur was a little man. He always wore high-heeled shoes and was always dressed up in feminine way. All right, hey,
I think there's been a little bit biased right there calling him a homosexual. You got a
uh-huh.
lot of those
I
guys,
know.
a lot of
Yep.
Europeans, and all of them alike. I mean, I'm talking about even the white Europeans who dressed like that and acted like that. It was like some type of class status of behavior back then.
Mr. Darfly brother said he rocking them Shirley Temple curls. All right, he's rocking it good. He's like, yeah. This is Louise Marie Therese, daughter of Queen of France. Again, hold up. Louise Marie Therese, daughter of the Queen of France, Maria Theresa of Spain. She was a Benedictine nun in the Abbey of Moret-sur-Loing. She was called the Maurice de Moret, and a portrait of her exists in Bibliothèque Saint-Geneviève in Paris. The research done by the Société d'Histoire de Paris France, published in 1924 by Honorary Champion Editions, concluded that this pastel portrait was painted around 1680 by the same hand which painted the series of 22 pastel portraits of kings of France, from Louis the Ninth to Louis the 14th between 1681 and 1683, on the initiative of Father Claude du Molinet, librarian of Sainte Geneviève's Abbey. No less than 6 memorialists have devoted paragraphs to her. She's mentioned in the memoirs of Madame de Maintenon. All right, so again, the daughter of the Queen of France. All right, I guess she became a nun. And much love to everybody in the chat. Thank you for all the support. Appreciate all the love, and I'm glad you guys are enjoying this video. I got a lot of info. Actually, we're gonna be reading a lot. I mean, hopefully you guys ain't too sleepy.
I want
All
to
right.
comment. I'm pretty sure she became a nun when she saw the ethnic cleansing going on in her own country.
Oh, well, a lot of them were converting for, you know,
Well,
by
I'm pretty.
force. So,
Yeah, many was converting because they embraced the religion, but I'm pretty sure you had many that also converted out of fear.
Hmm. So we got believed to be James Francis Edward Stuart, Prince James III of England. So a steward or Swarthy, a swart is a steward. A swart is a steward. That's where it comes from. Edward Stuart, because of similarities in armor, hairstyle, and leopard skin cloak found in fake White Knight's portrait of Prince James III. All right, so he's saying this is the real one. All right, and it says Christie's the art people, entourage de François de Trou. All right, and it says down here François de Trou, which is the painter, right, who did this painting. This is like you can find this in auctions, art galleries. François de Tours was a French painter and engraver who became principal painter to King James II, an exile of Saint-Germain-en-Laye and director of the Académie Royale des Peintures de Sculpture. In 1690, Troyes became the principal painter of the court of King James II in exile in Saint-Germain-en-Laye. By the year 1698 to 1701, a period of peace between France and Great Britain, Jacobites could cross the English Channel carrying portraits of James Francis Edward Stuart and his sister Princess Louisa Maria. Troy was then James II's only court painter. All right, so you know he worked for the James and Stuart family. So this painter, same one that painted it. So obviously, use your logic. All right, because again, they try to say these are like servants or mixed with Africans or whatever when they try to show people. All right, so this is Elizabeth of Bohemia, daughter of King James, the sixth of Scotland. All right, mother of Anne of Denmark, the wife of Frederick V, Elector Palatine. The Palatines are Germans. The Palatines were sent by the thousands to America as well as indentured servants. A lot of them went voluntarily as head bride systems. They got land and indentured servants for coming over here. All right, so a lot of those Palatines, Germans, are Swarthy too. Briefly Queen of Bohemia due to her husband's short reign in Bohemia. Elizabeth is often referred to as the Winter Queen. All right, so this is her depicted right here. And we got Penny from Barbados. I know a lot of you guys seen this already. From 1788. Who's that? All right. This is a fresco in Europe in St. Catherine of Siena before the Pope of Avignon, Pope Gregory the 11th by Giovanni di Paolo, 1460. All right, the Pope and everybody in this uh, fresco or whatever it is painting from 1460 is Swarthy, dark skinned people. All right. You got the statue right here. It says John of Saxony, known as John the Steadfast or John the Constant, Elector of Saxony. All right. And right here, we got this is basically everything is leading to that this is Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. All right. The Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. All right, and I got another website in the because the painting is in this Dutch museum, very famous, and they say something about him working or being part of the Holy Roman Emperor, like his servant or somebody, his knight. Oh yeah, actually his bodyguard, something like that. of Charles V. It's like bodyguard of Charles V, but this is actually Charles V because we got a depiction of Charles V. All right, so just stare at him real quick because I'm gonna pull that out right now because we live, we doing this raw. All right, we're gonna pull out the Inca Kings list. All right, let's see, make sure we.
I'm gonna let everybody know this is also this is being shown live on Facebook right now. Also in the Black Village, you can go check it out in the Black Village. Listen to Brother Kurimeo drop nothing but indigenous truth. No matter where it's coming from, Europe, America, he's giving you nothing but indigenous truth.
So this is the image I'm talking about right here. All right. Let me just. All right. We're gonna zoom in real quick. I want to spend too much time on it, but it shows a list of the kings, the Inca kings. This is Manco Capac right here, all the way to the left, and his queen all the way to the right. That's Mama Waka, Mama Waka, Waka, Wakanda, Waka. All right, and then we got the Inca kings after him. All right, we even got the Jaguar Waka, the Jaguar Waka, number 7. All right, and down here we got Viracocha, all the way in the left. Some say Viracocha is Quetzalcoatl. All right, but what I want to show you is the person all the way to the right, down in the bottom. That's actually Charles the Fifth, Charles the Fifth, right there. Same one that we just saw. All right, so this is from a real painting from 1500s. This is in the Larco Museum in Lima, Peru. All right, this is from a photo somebody took because they won't publish this on the internet. I had to like find somebody took a photo of it, and I'm glad it was like 2,000 pixels, so I was able to grab it and make it even bigger so I can zoom in and everything. All right, so this is Charles V right here at the end when they took over, and you see before him everybody got a scepter. Now, what I was talking about, the scepter is the keys, the scepter. He don't have it. You see, he has a crown. They have a scepter. That's from the Most High Creator. That's the scepter. All right. So we're gonna go back to Charles V. All right. And it says Holy Roman Emperor Charles V from 1500 1558. This painting. And then we got this coin right here. It says ducat issued in 1537 during the period when Charles V occupied Wittenberg. All right. And then we got the scepter again after he took it, or they passed it to him. Who knows the reasoning? And this is again probably Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor, by virtue of the time frame in his Habsburg jaw. All right, in typical lion albino fashion, this painting is falsely called the Balthasar of the Moorish king by the Dutchman Jos van Cleef. All right, the scepter is European, the orb is European. Note similarities with the scepter, orb, and imperial crown of Austria.
Let's point out the fact that it's falsely called a Moorish motif when it's not.
Well, if you're talking about skin, yeah, he's more. But if we're not, I mean, he's this is Charles V. He's a
Yeah,
Habsburg,
yeah. I
and
was just
those the
yeah,
Habsburgs come from Germany.
yeah. I was just pointing out that as you was reading it, it said it was in the entitlement. If you go back down, you was reading it. It was saying that it was falsely called Moorish motif. I guess it's trying to relate to the fact that he has nothing to do with the Moorish religion or the Moorish people as a religion. Just just want to point that out. Just by color, Moorish by color, but that's about it. In relation to what you just read.
All right. So we got here Alessandro de Medici, Duke of Peni and also Duke of Florence, ruler of Florence from 1530 until 1537. Yeah, moderators, don't be scared. We ain't here to like debate anybody's hurt feelings or address anybody's hurt feelings and stuff. We're just showing historic images and reading historic books. This ain't personal. Entrance to Palazzo Pucci, which is a historic building in Florence, Italy. It occupies almost a block between Ricasoli and servants and is organized in three nuclei corresponding to as many courtyards. So this is a common theme, especially in Germany and all these countries up there where you would never imagine. They honor that, and then there's people over there that are also doing like the whole like BLM, Black Lives Matter movements over there, right? They look weird too. They don't even, they're, you know, I got my opinions about who I think they are, but they're trying to take these images down, saying it's racist. But what they're really trying to do is hide the history, because once these come down, you ain't never gonna remember. They're gonna hide all the, everything else, and then, but the local people, they get interviewed in local news channels about it, and they're like, "That's nonsense. We honor that. We honor them. Like that's our history right there. That's our Saint Maurice and all that." And they don't care. They they ain't looking at it like that. So a lot of the times, there's an agenda behind all these things, not just about, oh, it's racist. All right. So this right here says the memoirs of Jacques Casanova de Siglan, the Prince of Adventurers. All right, from 1902. It says portrait of Casanova by the Prince de Ligne. He would be a very fine. So this is the actual Casanova, right? The character. He would be a very fine man if he was not ugly. He is tall, built like a Hercules, but with an almost African complexion, meaning dark skin. His eyes are bright, truthful looking, intelligent, but they indicate an uneasy susceptibility and a revengeful ferocity. All right, so they're describing Casanova and just, all right. Maria. All right, this is Holy Roman Empire Maria of Austria, daughter of Charles V. All right, wife since 1548 of Emperor Maximilian II. Joan, Archduchess of Austria, Infanta of Castile and Aragon, Princess of Burgundy and Flanders. All right, we got this already, I think, earlier. It says portrait of a wealthy black man, either Flemish or German. Flemish or German circa 1540 in a private collection of Antwerp. So as what we're trying to say is beyond just generalizing people as one thing. A lot of these people had their own little stories. So a lot of them are Flemish, even though you want to call them Moors because of their skin. They're Flemish or German or from Dutch land or Dane, or they could be Iberian, Sephardic Jews or whatever. Different things. They would tell you, if you ask them who they are, he'll say, well, I'm Flemish, or I'm from Germany, or I'm from this family. All right, and this right here is Vincenzo Scamosi, was a Venetian architect, a writer or architecture, active mainly in Vicenza and Venice. All right, Venetian. All right, and I've seen this image a lot before, and I verified it, making sure that it was actually depicting what it says it is. And it is. This is actually a depiction of Lisbon, Portugal, from 1570. And if you know the story behind the painting, the guy in the horse, he's actually, I believe, the king or the emperor at that time of Portugal. It says here, Wikipedia, Chafariz el del Rey, the King's Fountain, is a 16th century oil painting by an anonymous Flemish painter. The work depicts a scene in front of the fountain in Lisbon, Portugal. All right, so there's all kinds of people. There's different complexions, but you see a lot of people of color here. All over the place, as rich people, as peasants, as entertainers, or whatever. All right. Here's just some close-ups. All right, some more right here. All right, this is what I was saying, is the king on his horse. It says again, the Chafariz del Rey in the Alfama district, view of the square with the King's Fountain in Lisbon, Dutch painting, 1570, close up of a man who appears to be the king of Portugal. The king wears the cross of the Order of Santiago, which was founded in the 12th century and owes its name to the national patron of Galicia in Spain, Santiago, St. James the Greater, under whose banner the Christians began in the 9th century to combat and drive back the Moors and Muslims from the Iberian Peninsula. All right? So he's wearing that same crest that drove away what? Moors and Muslims. So you see it more and more war. Like we're talking about melanated people, not just what we think of as Moors, but there's different factions of people of color fighting each other in Europe, even before it was all white. Because remember, we read right in the beginning of this video, Benjamin Franklin in 1751, still letting us know that Europe was still Swarthy in his time. This is 1570, all right? So they're fighting each other, all right? It's not just white people fighting black people, what we think, what we like to say, all right?
And
And this is,
I
go
was
ahead.
tripping off the picture. I was tripping off the picture because you look at it, you see more people of color in that picture than you do of white skin in that picture you just showed.
Yep.
So that's showing how that actually, like you just said, it shows actually how populated Europe was at one time with color with melanated people.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We're looking at images right now, but we're about to read a couple things. All right, we already read a little bit. All right, this is the Holy Trinity Medal of Maurice, Duke of Saxony. Oh, this one I don't know if everybody can see it, but when I zoomed into it, on my own, I can't do it on this app that I'm showing, but it basically he has like dreadlocks. He has dreadlocks on his beard, on his hair, everywhere. He has dreadlocks. All right, and it says front ornate of the throne decorated with floral design. God the Father seated, facing, holding orb and scepter. All right, who? God the Father with dreadlocks. All right, that's what they're depicting here.
Wow.
This
Wow,
is from
I've never seen this before.
the Holy Trinity Medal of Maurice, Duke of Saxony, 1541 and 53 AD.
Wow.
All right, right here we got this brother with his hidden hand. You know, that's all I'm gonna say. All right, and this is unknown young nobleman in Berlin. Yeah, you just don't want us to trace who he is, but he's a nobleman. He ain't playing. All right, we got this coin right here. And it says Elector of Saxony Maurice, 1541, Teller Annaberg.
Yeah,
It
I
says,
want to point out also a lot of times a lot of times coins were actually minted with the family with sometimes the family's crest on it because a family always a lot of times no families of nobility they had more than one family crest, so they would choose one sometime to mint for as a coin.
yep. And then we got rare, apparently authentic, nappy-haired image of Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II. He was emperor during the 30 Years' War, since the albinos destroyed all other images, says the albinos. All right, so again, Ferdinand, right? Ferdinand. Ferdinand was the one in charge when Columbus came, right? And some people think he was white. Again, Benjamin Franklin told us that the Spaniards, Italians, Portuguese were swarthy.
And an example of what I was just pointing out right here, that's his family crest on the back of the coin right there. If you see the family crest, and you can see
Yeah.
also more than one family crest.
Yep. Exactly. It says this is a portrait of a Dutch soldier. Hmm. And we got portrait of a scribe circa 1500. So like, yeah, these are not slaves. Like they were teaching, oh, these are the servant or the slave, but no. This sketch right here is Jan Vos, Dutch poet and playwright.
That brother looked like a player.
He's a poet, man. So he was doing
You
that Romeo and Juliet thing outside the window, like. Juliet.
You already blew me back with the fact that I just found out, and I did not know that Casanova was a melanated brother. And they
Of course.
said, I'm gonna go back and read that because I that blew my mind. And it describes him as a large, muscular brother. So wow, that's some good information.
This coin is from Dukes of Saxony. Christian II says Johann George I and August. All right. Then we got this coin right here of Elector of Saxony, Johann George II, 1656 and 1680. And it says this is Higiomonte, black painter, probably in Vienna, 1670 to 80. Higiomonte. But the funny thing is, up here it says Indianair. Do you see that? Higiomonte Indianair. The Indianair. So we gotta do some research. All right, and this statue, I know a lot of people go, oh, that's Egyptian. No, this is not Egyptian. This is from Crete, Lady of Uxuri, 650 BC, the island of Crete, right? Got the statue right here. It says Minoan snake goddess. And then we got a Minoan fresco depicting an Aboriginal from Minoa, indigenous person from Minoa. And we got another fresco or painting, and again, this is not Egyptian. This is the Kefti, Cretans, Minoans, bringing tribute to Egypt, the tomb of Rekhmire, governor of Thebes. So this is actually what the Egyptians drew them. So this is an Egyptian painting, but it's not depicting Egyptians. It's Etruscans they're depicting in this painting, the Egyptians. This is what they look like, right? In their time. Or Minoan, right? A Cretan. And another one here. Another Cretan Minoans painted in Egypt. This is Cyprus, 600 BC. This is Cyprus, 300 BC. All right, so got some pretty good images here too. This is a vase depicting a young Etruscan man in the 4th century BC. All right, so I got these from actually real art galleries, and they're selling these for a lot of money. There's an Etruscan. You see his hair? Almost look like the Buddha, right? We're going to talk about the Buddha later on a little bit, but that's a whole different video I got planned about Asia. But yeah, basically that's what the Buddha has. He had little, what can you call those? Even like when you first start, dreading your hair, and you separate it, Base depicting young Etruscan, it says again, and again, this is blacks in ancient Greece. The sculptures respectively date back to the 5th and 2nd, 3rd centuries BC. The Pelasgians were still great in number, even after the arrival of the whites, Walter Art Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Arts. All right, and this is again Greeks. This black presence was influential up into the level of religion. Here is Zeus at the center of the picture, the supreme god of the Greeks. Know that it is a color truly wanted by the authors since they knew how to represent white people at that time. Illustrations of the 6th century BC. So he's giving you a point. They even, like in these vases, they depicted when somebody was pale skin or light skin. All right, so they're depicting dark skinned people here. It's not because they're painting everybody dark. A John Etruscan man, 4th century BC, Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Again, we've shown the hair as a flamethrower saying locking. And then we got Etruscan mural painting in the lion's tomb, it says. All right, another Etruscan right here. All right, you see all over Europe. Lion's tomb. The men comfortably lying belong to the ruling class. They're the ruling class. Just chilling. He's like, hey, bring me a grape. I'm hungry. I want a snack. And some wine, right? We got the lobster people again. This is, I guess, how they. Says Etruscan dancer, original representation on the left, bleached on the right to hide the black nature of Etruscans. All right, so I guess they bleached it out. He's saying. Again, we're talking about the original inhabitants. We're not talking about bashing on anybody else. We're trying to show history here. It's history you can't deny and say, well, we're all one now. I just want to show you what Europe was like. Two, don't forget who was coming over here as Europeans. Mural painting of the tomb known as Francois. We see Etruscans dressed as the Romans later would. Ruler Belsari on the left, who built the tomb for his powerful family, is wearing a laurel wreath, an attribute of the Roman emperors 5th century BC. All right. See that? Got another scene here. See what it says. It says an Etruscan king of Rome. A king of Rome. That's a king of Rome. All right. And is that his pale skinned wife or friend? It says Tarquinius dynasty. The fan held by the servant is identical to the ceremonial fan of the pharaohs of Egypt. It is still used for the popes today. It is still used by the popes today. So who are the Etruscans coming from, really, or who they mix with? Seems like a lot of Egyptian. But what Egyptian are we talking about? To marry? Or the fake one? I'm not talking about fake as in a republic or a country of modern country. I'm talking about an ancient culture known to the Greeks. It's a Greek word, Egypt. It was not even an Egyptian word. All right. Then we got another painting right here. The Etruscans also like to party a lot. Here we see them on this fresco of the so-called leopard tomb, lying down to eat, drink, and feast. As far as we know until today, this way of celebrating was very appreciated by the Romans. It is therefore the blacks who are at its origin. Then we got this one right here. And it says Etruscan murals for that one. This right here is on the left, double-sided mask with an Etruscan on the right and Hercules on the left, 4th century BC, Vatican Museum. On the right, Etruscan man with a laurel wreath. This is therefore a ruler. All right. Another one right here, different angle. Italy's civilizers, it says. And then we got Minoan men 3,500 years ago, Aya Triada sarcophagus. And then we got, like I was saying earlier, these Greek vases. You can see the difference when they depict a pale skin or, what you call white person and a dark skinned person. All right. You see the difference? 2,500-year-old Greek amphora. We see Egyptian Phoenician Cadmus, symbol of the advent of civilization in Europe, who holds the reins of his chariot. Minos' uncle was thereby very black. We also notice on his amphora that Apollo, the Greek god, is also pitch black. Apollo is actually the Greek replica of the Egyptian Horus. Source: Reunion des Musées Nationaux de France. And who is Horus? We talking about Thoth again? An epithet? This trinity? All right, so again, the gods are depicted in Greek, and they're even referenced as dark skin. This right here says there's a fresco West House room. All right, so this was from this archaeological site right here, and inside they found all this, all these melanated people on the wall, these frescoes on this wall. It says, when they say that the Minoans were related to the first inhabitants of West Asia, here are the Asians they are referring to. On the left, Vitalist priests, animists in Syria 2,000 years ago, University of Gent. On the right, the first inhabitants and first civilizers of Iran, known as Elamites. All right? Elamites. Musée du Louvre. Minoan women in ancient capital Knossos, University of Heidelberg. Okay. Copper colored. Right here. All right, what do we have here? It says Minoan men, fresco by the Knossos Palace, Minoan. All right. Oh, we got this already. Minoans coming to pay tribute to Pharaoh of Egypt. All right, Minoans depicted here again in Egypt. All right, look at these three sisters right here. And it says Minoan women playing music. Source IES Las Musas Madrid. All right, you see that? Yeah, this is stuff they never want to show you. They don't want you thinking about Minoans or Cretans like this when they make these movies, right? In these movies, 300 and all that. They don't want you to think about melanated people. All right, Minoan navigators. Pay attention to the skin color. University of Chicago. What does the University of Chicago know? Do you teach this to your students, University of Chicago, about so-called Black Europeans? Do you teach them where it happened to them? Where are they today? Did they just disappear into another dimension? Is this the Mandela effect? What's going on here? I'm being silly, but these are serious questions. Or let's just pretend, they're gone, they don't exist anymore. We got a Minoan fisherman right here.
Looking like he got dreads, in his head. Look at him. Look at his hair. Look at his hair.
Yep.
His hair kind of natty, Still got wavy. Got that pretty wavy look, but he's got that natty look too.
Yeah, he keeps it natural. He's just like, fuck it, I just walk around it, like I came into this earth, like. Oh, he's like, I was taking a swim, but I also fished at the same time, might as well.
And I'm pretty sure ain't nobody be paying attention to the way he look. Look at all that fish he bringing home.
Oh yeah, they're like, oh word, he got dinner and more. And then we got, wow, look at this. So we got a light skin and a dark skin person right here. All right, again, some light skin, unless they were rubbed off, but we see a melanated person at the right. It
Yeah,
says
you saw.
black.
I mean, when you look at stuff like that, you see how unified and how happy the people were back then. Wasn't nobody tripping off nothing, cut skin color and nothing like that.
Not all the time, not everywhere. It wasn't really about complexion, you
No,
know.
it
Is
was about culture. It was about respecting one another's culture.
was whether these are servants here or wealthy nobles or whatever, that included all colors. It didn't. It wasn't so separated as race like it is now. And right here we got. I know people be like, no, that's not a. This is real, right here. This is. Let me see. I don't think I got the info on this, but this is a Truscan, I believe, or Minoan. And right here, there's so many images and with these Christian iconic iconic images showing all these Christian Swarthy melanated, the first so-called Catholics and Christians and saints, right? So you'll see that all over Italy, Russia, Germany, and a lot of brothers have brought this information, you know, a lot throughout the years, numerous times, you know. And we got right here more frescoes, more Swarthy Europe, in every way, even the religious images. And this is actually a depiction of this. This was found on a wall in in a very old place. It's one of the first supposed Christian like worship houses or churches ever. This is like BC times, and this is supposed to depict Moses as an older person. And this is him again. It's in the Dura Europos archaeological house or whatever you want to call it. If you want to look it up right now. And this one is very interesting right here because it shows Moses parting the water. And this is how they're depicted right here. Moses and I forget who the other person was next to him. All right, and that's in this again place in Dura Europos. It's called. So look it up. All right. And this is, I believe, this is a representation of the Magi, one of the three Magi's, what they call one of the ones they depict as a dark skin, but I believe they were all dark skin, you know. So, especially when you see who they are, where they came from, at that time, who was there and what they look like. All right, so I believe they call him Balthasar, right? Balthasar, the Magi. Again, another Balthasar. The adoration of the Magi detail of King Balthasar from the central panel of the Triptych 1510 by Hieronymus Boss art print, right? This one right here. He has a little dragon on his little ball. This is a Roman mosaic of what appears to be a black Roman senator. All right. More nobles in Europe. Again, this is the Magi. Again, yeah, this is what it is. This is the continuation. The other depictions of the Magi, the same one. This is another one, and another one right here. And this is another one as well. They have a lot of depictions of him. So him is there's no like hiding it, right? They know. It says the Magi, the three kings, wise men from the Near East, Bible story, myth. It says Melchior, Caspar, and Balthasar. In Middle Ages Europe, Caspar and Balthasar became Black Moorish or the Moorish kings. Hmm. Now, all those were what you call so-called black. You see this hat right here they're wearing. That's the Phrygia cap, and I talked about it on my Sumerian videos. They were that, and the Danish and Danites were wearing that as well, and they were melanated people.
Wow, he's saying in this right here. He's saying that the original Magi or the Magi were three dark complete melanated brothers.
Yes, yes, yes. Like so I was saying, like those people, if you see their history, where they're coming from, and the people that are living in those times, like those are all Swarthy people. Swarthy, not literal or king says figurative, unrelated to Europe. It says so. It's a myth, but they do represent something. And we got another depiction here. This looks like dreadlocks to me, or the locks, right? The locks. Blessed John the Hairy, also known as John the Merciful of Rostov, was a holy fool, Yurodivi says, as the Russian Orthodox Church in the second half of the 16th century. A holy fool. Not sure why they
Wow.
calling him that, but
Well, I'm also tripping for the brother guy. I mean, from Russia, really? Wow, that's something there. I've never. That's some good information right there. A
well,
brother from Russia,
yeah, original Russians. Yes, these are the original what you call,
and
you know,
that brother got locks.
yeah. So this is an altar with Aphrodite and Adonis, Taurus, Italy, 400 375 BC.
Wow, that's saying that the original she was originally a sister. She was originally a melanated sister. Was that Adonis?
And right here we have Riddles of Prehistoric Times by James H. Anderson. And he says the bastards of middle size, compactly built, robust, and agile, of a darker complexion than the Spaniards. So the Spaniards are dark, remember. So the Basques are even darker. All right, the Basques, the original Basques. Their language has a resemblance to the Finnic, as well as to some of the languages of the Red Men of the Pacific coast, and to the Gallic in Ireland and Brittany. An ice age probably drove them south. Some few probably survived as cave dwellers, but the larger part perished. Says here the first inhabitants of southern Europe, northern Africa, Arabia, France, and the British Islands were a race of small men who did not average in height more than about 4 to 5 feet, 4 feet 5 inches. They were of slight build with dark complexion. They were cave dwellers, emanation from Lemuria, he says. All right, Lemuria. So now he's getting mythical right here, right? Or is it not? We talking about a land in the Pacific that went down. I believe was still attached to the Americas. I believe it was a part that it was attached to Asia and America more, and that went down. And on one side and the other side, Atlantis, so-called Atlantis, and the Atlantic, still part of the so-called old world here. You know, but he's saying that also they came from Lemuria, so he's not saying they came from Africa, right? Because they know that they can't say, oh, just because they're dark they came from Africa. It is said that the first people in Ireland were the Formations. They were of dark, stunted race, utterly savage, using rough, unwrought stone implements. So far as can be learned, they did not know the use of fire. It is said they came from Africa on ships. It is said. All right. And now that was the book Riddles of Prehistoric Times by James H. Anderson. Now this book is A description of the western islands of Scotland, containing a full account of their situation. Let me see. Extent, soils, product, Harper's Bay. All right, and it keeps going. So this is from uh, Martin, I believe his name is. Yeah, and from 1716. All right, this book is from 1716. You can find it on archive.org. Says some few years ago, all the flax in the barony of Trotterness was overrun with a great quantity of green worms, which in a few days would have destroyed it, had not a flock of ravens made tour ground on the ground. The flax grew for the space of 14 miles, ate up the worms, and the first time, oh, I don't even know why I copied that. My fault. Says the inhabitants of this isle are generally well proportioned, and their complexion is for most part black. They are not obliged to art in forming their bodies, for nature never fails to act her part bountifully to them, and perhaps there is no part of the habitable globe where so few bodily imperfections are to be seen, nor any children that go more early. I have observed several of them walk alone before they were 10 months old. They are bathed all over every morning and evening, some in cold, some in warm water, but the latter is most commonly used, and they wear nothing straight about them. All right, they're talking about inhabitants of Scotland. All right, of most part black, and this is a crest, right? This is an example. I threw this in there. This is the coat of arms of of or Ivy William, 1485, the Ivy family. All right, and this crest right here, it says arms of Silas Titus of Boucher, 1623-1704. Titus was captain of Dill Castle and gentleman of the bedchamber to King Charles II, an English politician. All right, this is another family crest. This is arms of Jean III, the Grailly, capital de Bush. Sir Jean III, the Grailly, capital of the Bush KG of Paris, was a cousin of the Counts of Foix and a military leader in the Hundred Years' War, who was praised by the chronicler Jean Froissart as an ideal of chivalry. He was made lord of Nemours of Charles V of France, Count of Bigorre by Edward III of England, Constable of Aquitaine in 1371, and was also founder and the fourth Knight of the Garter in 1348. All right, these are not just anybody, like historic people in those places. All right, look at this crest right here. You can see the top right here. All right, so that's a woman. You see how she got that like Pope looking hat with the fish head, Dogon. What does that mean? All right, family crest. It says from the secret book of honor of the Fugger family of Kirchberg and Weissenhorn, paintings by John Brew the Younger, Osberg, 1545-1549, which supplements 16th-19th century. It says a good translation yields the woman with the hat, not the queen, as the matriarch Ursula von Harrach. Hmm. All right, what do we have here? This is Cardinal Albert of Brandenburg being chastised by Ulrich von Hutten, 1517. Von Hutten was a German scholar, poet, and reformer, and also an outspoken critic of the Roman Catholic Church. He acted as a bridge between the Humanists and the Lutheran Reformation. He was a leader of the Imperial Knights and of the Holy Roman Empire. All right, that's him right there. You don't play. All right, this is another crest right here. See the top right here, person on the top, and then around the bottom, like two different families, I guess, coming together. It says combined coat of arms of the Toucher and Ryder families by Albrecht Dürer, 1499. All right, we got another one right here. You see his hat. It's just like the Fergia hat, the Liberty cap. Portrait of Hieronymus Holzschuher, coat of arms, Germany, 1526 by Albert Dürer, Berlin. All right. This is Saraceni. Saraceni. Saraceni coat of arms from the book Insignia Lucentium Italian, 1550-1555, the Bavarian State Museum. Saraceni family. Got another one right here. And this is the Turchi coat of arms from the book Insignia Licentium Italian, the Bavarian State Museum. The Turchi. The Turchi. We got another one right here. See this double cross thing right here? Just like the Exxon gas station logo. Same thing, same family. Yeah, I said it. All right, more. So you see this throughout Germany again, they're disputing it now, and the locals are like, no, we love the history. What are you talking about? That's not racist at all to us. We know who these people are.
Oh, so I wanted to point out, bro, as you're teaching this, man, this is a very good lesson that you're teaching, because it shows that we have to, like you say, when it comes to looking at history versus as American Aborigines, wanting to know the truth about history, we got to stop looking at color and just look at the truth
Yeah,
of who is who, you feel me, and stop and look at the historical integrity of truth rather than
yeah,
coming to conclusions based on a lot of our prejudices that from where we came from as Muslims and Christians and things like that of that nature, you feel me.
yeah. Right here, this is a Russian general, Abraham Petrovich Ganibal. All right, so another Russian. But yeah, that was good what you said, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Everybody has a story. All these people have a story. You can't just group them. Oh, these are all Moors, yeah, but they all have their stories. That's what I'm saying. And okay, so where did they go? Where did all these Black Europeans go? A lot of them are still there. A lot of them were sent over here. You know, a lot of them came. They had plantations. And again, so the same book, a description of the western islands of Scotland. And we're talking about the Isle of Arran, or the island of Arran. It says the inhabitants of this isle are well proportioned, generally brown, and some of black complexion. They enjoy a good state of health and have a genius for all callings or employ. All right, brown or black complexion. In the Isle of Gigay, says the inhabitants are all Protestants. All right, Protestants. Remember that. Protestant. I've been tell you guys when I say Protestants, because a lot of the times I'll be like, oh, we had a shipload of Protestants come from Ireland or whatever, and we just oh, a bunch of white people, right? That's what we're all assuming, and that's what I'm trying to help break that spell. The inhabitants are all Protestants and speak the Irish tongue generally, there being but a few that speak English. They are grave and reserved in their conversation. They are accustomed not to bury on Friday. They are fair or brown in complexion and use the same habit diet that is made use of the adjacent continent isles. All right. It says about a league further of the south. All right. So this is about the island of Judah. It almost sounds like the island of Judah. Just replace the R with a D. Judah, Judah says the natives here are very well proportioned, being generally black of complexion and free from bodily imperfections. They speak the Irish language and wear the plaid bonnet as other islanders. All right, the plaid. All right, they made that up. You know, that's that plaid clothing.
Yeah, this, anybody seen the movie? What was that? Formula 51 had Formula 51 with what's his name in it? The brother, the actor, Morgan Freeman. He was dressed like an Irishman. He went all the way to Scotland because
Yeah,
his bloodline was in Scotland. He wore a plaid skirt. It was like checkered, like a checkered
exactly.
plaid, checkered skirt.
I mean, just go to Montserrat on St. Patrick's Day. Hey,
What is that about? President Obama went to, I think, Ireland. Say he's part Irish or Scottish. He said his blood. He went all the way to see his bloodline, his family out there.
he's a whole bunch of stuff. Seems less American, I guess. You know, the more that it gets revealed, you start seeing like he's less, very little, right? And it says the natives here are very well proportioned, right? In the island of Judah. Oh, I forgot. Actually, we read that. It says the cattle bred here are cows, the horses, sheep, and all those sides. The inhabitants are generally well proportioned and of a black complexion. They speak only the Irish tongue. Black complexion, right? In Judah, the island of Jura, the western islands of Scotland, page 249. Says, and use habit diet and westernized, they are all Protestants and observe the festivals of Christmas, Easter, and Good Friday, but the women only observe the festival of Nativity of the Blessed Virgin. All right. What is this? All right, we got this book right here. It says White People, Indians, and Highlanders, Tribal Peoples and Colonial Encounters in Scotland and America. Colin G. Calloway. Says the English Civil War was a civil war for Scotland, as well as its effects north of the border were devastating. Many clans supported the King Charles Stuart. All right, so I guess this is the Jacobites. Of 1,000 men raised by Sir Hector MacLean of Duard, 700 fell with their chief at the Battle of Inverkeithing in 1650. The Macleods, all right, we're going to read about the Macleods later on, and Dunganbun, and this whole dung, what it means, big gun, suffered huge casualties when Oliver Cromwell, here we go, Oliver Cromwell, remember he was destroying all this art, right? He's also the guy who was shipping all these so-called black Irish and black Scottish over to the West Indies, Oliver Cromwell, all right? So this family, the Macleods and the Dunganbun, who are also black, so-called black families originally, he's also, you know, giving them trouble. Says Oliver Cromwell defeated the Scots at Worcester, and Cromwell transported hundreds of Scots prisoners as indentured servants to Virginia and the West Indies. All right, it's not Africans that they're sending over there. That's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. All right, there was the actual Middle Passage, and there was ships bringing over people. They weren't designed as slave ships. They were cargo ships or battalion ships. They just happened to start bringing people over in them. You know, they weren't specifically designed to be in slave ships. All right. But these people mostly coming from Europe, indentured servitude. And these were, again, both pale skin and black Europeans. A lot of the so-called black ones, especially. Again, they were being sent as indentured servants. We got the indentured servant videos. I've shown you all the primary sources, all the scholarly research on it, behind it, and I still got more videos coming on that. That's the real slavery history. That's really that was the real people who were being brought over. Because the rest of them were here. The rest of the people that were enslaving were already here. They had the local labor force already here. But they started out with their people. That's how they started out the plantation, with indentured servants, before they started really massively enslaving the local Aborigine people here of the Americas. We started out with European indentured servants, and they went sent to, again, to Virginia where the tobacco is, and the West Indies where the sugar plantations are. Cromwell invaded Scotland in 1650 and 1651 and built a fort of Inverness to preserve the peace of the country and keep the Highlands in awe, which they effectually did all his time, wrote Daniel Defoe, who touched the region in the 1720s. 50 years later, Dr. Samuel Johnson noted that Cromwell was a hated name, and it was in Ireland after the massacre of Drogheda in 1649. All right, it says the exiled king and his descendants became the focus of Jacobite, from the Latin Jacobus or James, right? James, the King James, efforts to restore Stuart to the throne of England and Scotland. So these were people who were trying to help the Stuart dynasty and family get their power back, where King James is from, after he got taken by William the Orange. All right, William defeated James' Scottish supporters in the First Jacobite Rebellion in 1689 and beat James himself the next year at the Battle of Boyne in Ireland. Pacifying the Highlands was now vital to national security. William and his successors extended Cromwell's policy of garrisoning the region. The fort of Inverness, which had been demolished, was rebuilt. Fort William, the first of a new generation of forts, was constructed at the southwestern end of the Great Glen, in the heart of the Jacobite Lochaber region, to check the Camerons, a clan greatly addicted to plunder and strongly inclined to rebellion. All right, so these are the Jacobites that were basically sending. A lot of those Jacobites ended up as prisoners here in the West Indies, indentured servants here in the colonies. And I don't know if we'll get it on this part or if not the next part. I got the list, the ship list of these Jacobites and what they look like. They're described very thoroughly. All right, we ain't playing. I know I did that other video where they was describing the Jacobites, right? They were calling them all black. All right, my previous video, if you guys got that one. All right, not the one that, previous one to this one, but in one of my previous videos. You guys gotta go back. And we went over that whole book in the 1700s, describing all these people that were associated or around the Stuarts and King James, right, as black or brown. And then when we go look at the image that we see in Wikipedia, they show us, a pale skin, pink, blue-eyed person, right? So, I'm gonna show you that muster roll. So tune in. Now it says here, meet Cheddar Man. Cheddar Man, they call him Cheddar Man. First modern Britons had dark skin and blue eyes. All right, so this was something that came out, a couple years back. All right, Cheddar Man. This is from the Washington Post. Cheddar Man. They call him Cheddar Man. He lived more than 10,000 years ago, had brown hair, blue eyes, and dark to black skin. Dark to black skin. To the surprise of many, he is believed to have been the first modern Briton. All right. All right, Cheddar Man. Cheddar Man. You got Cheddar Man. This is Dorothy of Denmark. She got the cheddar too. She ain't playing.
Cheddar Man looked like a player. Cheddar Man looked like a player too.
He ain't playing. Look at his smirk. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. I knew you guys eventually. Yeah, luck. Yep, there's that Swarthy with the gray eyes. Just like Lincoln. Just like Lincoln. Dorothea, man, she ain't playing. Now we're gonna dodge the hijack here because I got this from a Pan-African site. So it says Africans or blacks, right? They put them all together. Negroes of Southwest England. So these are just English people. All right. It says origin of the Anglo-Saxon race, a study of the settlement of England and the tribal origin of the Old English people, by the late Thomas William Shore, author of a history of Hampshire, etc., honorary secretary, London and Middlesex Archaeological Society, honorary organizing secretary of the Hampshire Field Club and Archaeological Society, edited by his sons T.W. Shore and L.E. Shore. All right, this is from 1906. We're all the way in chapter 6. It says Rugians, Wends, and tribal Slavonic settlers. Now it says here that the name Wends was given by the old Teutonic nations of Germany to those Slavonic tribes who were located in the countries east of the Elbe and south of the Baltic Sea. It isn't the same as the older name used by Ptolemy, who says that the Wend Nedai are established along the whole of Wendish Gulf. Tacitus also mentions the Venedi. There can therefore be no doubt that these people were seated on the coast of Mecklenburg and Pomerania before the time of the Anglo-Saxon settlement. That there were some differences in race between the Wends of various tribes is probable from the existence of such large tribes among them as the Wiltzi and the Obodriti, who in time of Charlemagne formed opposite alliances, the former with the Saxons, the latter with the Franks. The Wends who still exist in Lower Saxony are of a dark complexion. They are of a dark complexion and are the same stock as the Sorbs or Serbs of Servia. They are Slavonic, but many tribes of Slavonic descent are fair in complexion, so many of them are light skinned. Procopius tells us that those Vandals who were allies of the ancient Goths were remarkable for their tall stature, pale complexion, and blond hair. It is therefore by no means improbable that the ancient Slavic tribes of the Baltic coast were distinguished by differences in complexion. So they're letting you know that there was different types of Slavic people. There was light-skinned Slavics and dark complexion. Must be more original. The same migratory movement in lesser degree appears to have extended even into England, bringing into our country some Slavonic settlers, probably in alliance with Saxons, Angles, Goths, and other tribes, and some later on in alliance with Danes. The existence of separate large tribes among the Wends is probable evidence of racial differences, and the alternative names they had are probably those by which were known to themselves and to their neighbors. The remnant at the present time of the dark complexioned Wends of Saxony, who called themselves Sorbs. All right, shows that there must have been some old Wendish tribe of similar complexion from which they are descended, as the country anciently occupied by the Wiltzi included Brandenburg and the district around Berlin. It joined the limits of ancient Saxony. On the west, there is evidence arising from the survivals. All right, so it says here, chapter 7 in the same book, our darker forefathers. All right. One of the facts concerning the color of the hair and eyes of the people in different countries of England at the present time, brought to light by scientific observations, is that there is a higher percentage of people of mixed brown type living in Hertfordshire, Buckinghamshire, Wiltshire, and Dorset than in most other counties, except those in Cornwall and on the old Celtic borders. The inhabitants of these countries are the darkest. This is usually explained on the supposition that in the process of the Saxon settlement of British population was allowed to remain in these parts of England, which in the course of centuries became mixed with inhabitants of Anglo-Saxon descent, and consequently the present population is more marked than those of pure descent by brown, hazel, or black eyes with brown, chestnut, dark brown, or black hair. The counties of Hertford and Buckingham have people as dark as Wales. All investigation goes to show that this brunette outcrop is a reality. Bedell found that the area in which there is a larger percentage of brown people in England extends from the River Lee to the Warwickshire Avon. In dealing with the circumstances of the settlement, these ethnological facts must receive consideration. All right. The survival of British population is a possible explanation and the one which appears to be the most natural. As there are some difficulties in this conclusion, the question arises, is there any other way in which the origin of these mixed brown people, surrounded by others of a somewhat fairer complexion, can be explained? An alternative explanation is that people of darker race may have come with the Angles, Saxons, or Danes and have settled largely in these parts of the country. There is circumstantial evidence that people of brown or dark complexion did come into England during the time of both the Saxon and the Danish settlements, and this may now be summarized. All right, so it says that this consideration of the probable origin of the great proportion of brunettes in two of the South Midland counties of England leads us to that of colored names as surnames and place names, which may probably have been derived from the original settlers. For example, there is in the common name Brown, all right, Brown. This has been derived from the Anglo-Saxon brun, right? Brun. So remember what I showed that Bruin and Dutch Bruin is black. Bruin. So like the hockey team in Boston, the Boston Bruins was basically talking about people of color or the black Bostons, basically Bostonians. The Bruins, the Boston Bruins. All right, Bruin is brown or brown complexion people. Hockey was invented by American Indians. They were talking about American Indians who are brown complexion, again signifying brown. It is not reasonable to doubt that when our forefathers called a man brun or brown, they gave him this name as a descriptive of his brown complexion. This probability that the brunettes were common is supported by the frequent references to persons named Brun in Anglo-Saxon literature. Brun was a name not confined to England in the Anglo-Saxon and later periods. On the contrary, we find that it was a common name in ancient Germany. The typical place name Bruninga Feld occurs in a charter of Etelstan dated AD 938 and local Q Bruninga Feld Disitor. Brunsham Hans is mentioned in a charter of Edward the Elder about AD 900. Brunsford is another suggestive name. Brunman is mentioned as a personal name in Anglo-Saxon records of the 11th century, and examples of the name Brunnen are somewhat numerous in documents of the same period. At the present time, old place names of which the word Braun forms the chief part, which has Braunwich or Brunswick, are common in Germany. The custom of calling people by color names from their personal appearance or places after them was clearly not peculiar to our own country. It is probable that the name Brunswick was derived from the brown complexion of its original inhabitants. Brunswick. From what? The brown complexion of its original inhabitants. The map published by Ripley based on the official ethnological survey of Germany shows that parts of the country near Brunswick have a higher percentage of brunettes than the district further north. So remember what I'm reading. This guy is high, right? Scholarly in his time. All right. I read the title, all the societies he's a part of, right? So he's letting you know, not me. He's letting you know. They're naming this after the brown complexion people that were the original inhabitants. So don't take this personal. All right. Bero also made observations on a number of Brunswick peasantry and recorded some remarkable facts relating to the proportion of brunettes among those who came under his observation. All right. So we at 2 hours. I don't know if I should actually stop it there. Because I got a little. Actually, I'll read this last one right here. It's just because that's from the last one. Yeah, I'll read a couple of these things. Actually, I got a lot. What you guys saying? You guys here? Are you guys up? Like, should we continue? We already 2 hours strong. Want to make it a 3 hour video? We can make it a 3 hour video.
I'm enjoying myself.
All right. So it says, as regards the ancient brown race or races of North Europe, there can be no doubt of their existence in the southeast of Norway and in the east of Friesland. There can be no doubt about the important influence which the old Wendish race has had in the northeastern parts of Germany and transmitted to their descendants a more brunette complexion than prevails among the people of Hanover, Holstein, and Westphalia, of more pure Teutonic descent. We cannot reasonably doubt that in view of such survival of brown people as we find at the present time in the provinces of North Holland, Drenthe, and Overijssel, which form the hinterland of the ancient Frisian country, numerous brunettes must have come into the England among the Frisians. It would be unreasonable to doubt this, as it would to think that during the Norwegian immigration into England, all the brown people of Norway were precluded. All right. I think it continues, but let me just show you this image right here. It says prehistoric. Oh, okay, so they're gonna go with the Africans, so dodge the hijack. It says prehistoric Africans populated Greece with a question mark. All right. Why? Because they look like dark-skinned people, right? So we gotta assume they came from Africa back in the day, but now we got our own logical conclusions based on our updated research and what the ancestors are letting us know, and the seals are open. We gotta get that pure water. We gotta go. We gotta come out of. We gotta go every angle. This is all history right here. All this pottery. All right. Continuing that book, very scholarly book, it says the consideration of the evidence that people of brunette complexions were among the Anglo-Saxon settlers in England leads on to that of people of a still darker hue, the dark black or brown black settlers. Probably there must have been some of these among the Anglo-Saxons, for we meet with the personal names Blackman, Blakeman, Blackaman, Blackasunu, Blacka, and Blatchiman or Blachman in various documents of the period. All right, Blacka was an ealdorman of Lindsey who was converted by Paulinius. Blackman was the son of Eldric, a descendant of Ida, ancestor of Elhred, king of Bernicia, and so on. The same kind of evidence is met with among the oldest place names. Blackenberg is mentioned in Anglo-Saxon charter. Blackmanstone was the name of a place in Dorset, and Blackmanstone that of a place in Kent. Blackenshell. There's another old word used by the Anglo-Saxons to denote black or brown black, the word swart. All right, we know that, the swarthy, right? Swart. The personal name Swart or Suart may have been derived from this word. They're saying steward, right? The stewards. Swart, which means black. So this word may be derived from that and may have originally denoted people of a dark brown or black complexion. Some names of this kind are mentioned in the Domesday Record of Buckinghamshire and Lincolnshire. These may be of Scandinavian origin, for the economy or nickname Swarthy is found in the northern sagas. Halfdan the Black was the name of King of Norway, who died in 863. The so-called black men of the Anglo-Saxon period probably included some of the darker Wendish people among them, immigrants or descendants of people of the same race as the ancestors of the Sorbs of Lausatia. All right. So I know I'm reading and I hope people's understanding, but letting us know that there was black Anglo-Saxons. So like people try to say, like Benjamin F. Franklin earlier saying, oh, the only white people are the Anglo-Saxons. Well, some of them were, but not all of them were. All right. Borders of, it says, the ancestors of the Sorbs of Lausatia on the borders of Saxony and Prussia at the present day. Some of the darker Wends may well have been among the black Vikings. All right. Black what? The black Vikings referred to in the Irish annals. Black Vikings. All right. Isn't this really Vikings? Because if we break down the letters, those letters, and we separate the V and the I, it becomes 6 kings. We put a space in between those and we look at it like Roman numeral, the 6 kings, the Vikings, the 6 kings. Again, the black Vikings referred to in the Irish annals as well as in those of Wales, and may have been the people who have left the Anglo-Saxon name Blackman or Bergi, which occurs in one of the charters, Blackmanstone on the Kentish coast and Blackmanstone on the Dorset coast. As late as time of the Domesday Survey, we meet with records of people apparently named after their dark complexions. In Buckinghamshire, Blakeshiman, Swartinus, the Swartiness, right? And others are mentioned in Sussex, one named Black in Suffolk, Blackemanus and Swartikungus, and others at Lincoln. The invasion of the coast of the British Isles by the Vikings of a dark or black complexion rests on historical evidence which is too circumstantial to admit of doubt. All right, this scholar from all these historical societies is letting you know black Vikings, right? Dark skinned Vikings. There's too much historical evidence, which is too circumstantial to admit of doubt. All right. He's already letting you know it's too much evidence. But 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 what happened throughout history? What did they teach us? All the circumstantial evidence that he knew about. This is from the 1800s, right? So why didn't they teach us that there were black Vikings? Why did they always show us white Vikings? All right. In the Irish annals, the black Vikings are called Dub Genti or black Gentiles. These black Gentiles on some occasions fought against other plunderers of the Irish coast known as the Fair Gentiles, who can hardly have been others than the Fair Danes or Northern Northmen. In the year 851, yeah,
Oh, I just wanted to point out that be mindful that to anybody who's following you, that the word Gentile only means somebody who does not believe the way, doesn't believe the same as the person that they're invading, or the invader doesn't believe. That's what, so they call one another Gentiles or pagans.
yeah, exactly. That's from the view of what somebody would call a Hebrew, right? What they would call a Gentile, depending on what they're saying. We'd have to analyze who's saying what, right?
Real talk, real talk.
And then it says here that they're saying that it might be the fair Danes they encountered in the year 851. The Black Gentiles came to Athcliath, Dublin. Example, Dublin. So that's the name, Dublin. In 852, we are told that 8 ships of the Finn Genti arrived. We're talking about Black Vikings, and fought against the Dub Genti for 3 days, and that the Dub Genti were victorious. The Black Vikings appear at this time to have had a settlement in or close to Dublin, and during the ninth century were much in evidence on the Irish coast. In 877, a great battle was fought at Loch Cuan between them and the fair Gentiles, in which Alban, chief of the Black Gentiles, fell. He may well have been a chieftain of the race of the northern Sorbs of the Mecklenburg coast. There is still another way in which men of black hair or complexions may have come into England. As draws among the Norse invaders in his translation of Orosius, King Alfred inserts the account which Other the Norse mariner gave him of the tribune in skins eiderdown, whalebone, and ropes made from whale and seal skins, which the northern Finns now called laps, paid to the Northmen. Their descendants are amongst the darkest people of Europe, and as they were thralls, some of them may have accompanied their lords. The Danes and Norse, having the general race characteristics of tall, fair men, must have been sharply distinguished in appearance from Vikings such as those of John Borg, for many of these were probably of a dark complexion. There is an interesting record of the descent of a dark sea rovers of the coast of North Wales in the annals of Cambria under the year 987, which tells us that Gothric, son of Harold, with black men, devastated Anglesey and captured 2,000 men. Another entry in the same record tells us that Meredith redeemed the captives from the black men. This account in the from the observances of their forefathers. Okay, so this is another screen. So it says, so they slew both the black and fair Hawald, whose names in subsequent Christian time were and still are held in high honor in Westphalia. It is a touching story and one that tells us more than the devotion inspired by Christian zeal to risk their lives, which these missionaries showed for the conversion of men of their own race. For as their names indicate, they bore in their different complexions evidence of the existence of the fair and the dark people amongst the Anglo-Saxon stock. All right, both colors, complexions. Weringa or Werinch is Hertfordshire. The probable connection of the Wends, some tribes of whom which are the Sorbs are known to have been dark, with parts of the Germany near Brunswick and with parts of Herts and Bucks is shown by these names. Domesday Book tells us Huscarls in Buckinghamshire and a people who bore such names as Swarting, Suart or Suan, Suart, and Swauart among its land holders, and it is difficult to avoid the conclusion that such names refer to people of dark complexions. All right, if they got last names like Seward, Stewart, Seward, all right, it's hard to avoid that they have dark complexions. Among the Lamans of Lincoln, a very Danish town, there were also apparently some so-called Danes of a dark complexion. All right, who's the Danes? If you saw my Sumerians video, the Danes, they start meeting up. These Danites, they start linking up with these Sumerians who were also appearing to be melanated too. A lot of them, not just white. All right, so these Danites, Danish, right? Danites, Danish, Dan, tribe of Dan, and we know that Ireland, the original people, some of the original people were the Tuat, the Duan or Danan, which is the tribe of Dan too. And in Hindu religion or mythology, we got the Danavans, which are the from the daughters of Danu. All right, so the tribe of Dan. So they're all over the place. As future video. but I'm just letting you know that a lot of the Danes are dark complexion. They're mixed with Semitic people. A lot of the Danes are mixed with Semitic people. All right. And again, their dark complexion. For Doomsday Book mentions Swarting, son of Gribold, Swardine, son of Hardenut, and Swartine, Swordsbrand, son of Ulf. In Hampshire, however, we do not meet with general blunt type. Of the New Forest district, Mackintosh says the New Forest is inhabited by a mixture of races which almost defy classification. The complexion in general being dark, are in general being what? Dark, and this prevalence of dark complexion people among the inhabitants of the New Forest district is still apparent. It is in parts of Wiltshire and Dorset. The same ethnological observer, Mackintosh, also says in the Middle and North Hampshire, the people in general belong to a dark complexion race. I have heard the opinion expressed that they are Wends, or a Belgic tribe of Wendish extraction. The present writer is not able to regard the dark complexion type as being largely race. The latter celts are not characterized by this head form. The survival among living people here and there of representatives of the broad-headed type is an interesting ethnological circumstance. As might be expected, it is chiefly in the most mountainous part of England, in the remote parts of Cumberland, that traces of this race may still be met with. The type is, according to Beddoe and Ripley, marked by being above the average in height, generally dark in complexion, the head broad and short, the face strongly developed at the cheekbones, grown or beetle-browed, the development of the bow ridges being especially noticeable in contrast with the smooth, almost feminine softness of the Saxon forehead. All right, so as they describe them. All right, so this is another statue of a royal, so-called black noble from Europe. You can kind of see like feathers on him on the top. It says Johannes Morus, Viceroy of Sicily. All right, Italy. And it says here, The Races of Europe, a Sociological Study. Lowell Institute Lectures by William C. Ripley, PhD, Assistant Professor of Sociology, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, that's MIT. Lecturer on Anthropology at Columbia University in the city of New York. All right. Can we give him a little credit? It was like, Kurimeo, but that's the white man. That's the white man. Well, the white man is letting you know. The white man's letting you know that Europe was all Swarthy. A new phase of the matter was presented by Broca's celebrated researches concerning the physical characteristics of the French people in the decade following 1860, especially those among the peasants in Brittany. Here were the only Celtic speaking people on the continent, and they were of a brunette and short race. Then in 1865 came the monumental work of Davis and Turman, the Crania Britannia, with added proof that a large part of the Celtic speaking population of the British Isles, particularly the Welsh, were equally short and of a dark complexion. Short and dark. Broca and Beddoe, among anthropologists, at once grasped the situation. They perceived the inconvenience attendant upon the use of the term. Nevertheless, the advocates of the old view of tall blond Celts still counted eminent authority among their number, such as von Baer with his and Roofmeyer. All right. Again, another source letting us know, right? Dark complexion, Europeans. Okay, as early as 1868, Durand de Grosse noted that in Aveyron, one of the southern departments lying along the borders of mountainous area, the populations of the region thereabout were strongly differentiated. On the Cellernous plains, the people were taller, of light complexion, with blue or grayish blue eyes, and having fine teeth. In the upland areas of the granitic formation, the people were stunned, dark in complexion, with very poor teeth eyes. So it sounds like they're being a little racist, right? That's just according to this person's. The peasants differed in temperament. One was lively, the other was morose. One was progressive, and the other was backward in culture and suspicious of innovations. All right. So I know a lot of people saying, "Well, Kurimeo, but these are Moors." I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? You mean dark skin? Yeah, these people are. We keep reading that dark complexion people. Yes. What do you mean by Moors, though? All right. That's what I'm trying to address here. We're trying to get specific. You gotta stop generalizing, grouping people as one thing. Like you tagging people as one word. You know, we've already broke down the definition of that word many times. All right. Again, this is not personal. So I'm showing you that, you know, Europe was Swarthy, even in original times, even in later times, colonial times. Still, and a lot of these Europeans ended up here. And a lot of these Europeans are, you know, amongst everybody, all of us. And that's what we're about to find out. If you do your genealogies, hey, you might have it in one part of your line, in some lines. All right, that's all I'm trying to explain to you. So what do you? So you're saying they're more? So what? So you're just because also when you find out they're in your family, are you gonna? What are you gonna accept it or not? You go, oh, no, they're more. That's not my family. Or I don't know what you mean by that. So you know, but we're reading history here, and this anthropological books is letting us know, all right, about who these people are and what they look like. And it says that Dr. Beto has selected our portrait number 109 and 110, representing this almost extinct broad-headed type of the Bronze Age. It is said to be not uncommon in the remoter parts of Cumberland. Harrison described it best in The Life. It is above the average in height, strong-jawed, sometimes fair in complexion, though more often dark, more often dark. The head is broad and short, face strongly devoted at the cheekbones, frowning on beetle brow, the development of the brow ridge being especially noticeable in contrast with the smooth, almost feminine softness of the Saxon forehead. Our old British type from Barley Hearts would seem to conform pretty well to this type. It is most prevalent among the remnants of the now well-nigh extinct Jomondry class. Another equally good example of the primitive Old British type is shown in our old black breed, man from the Shetland Islands, shown at pages 302 and 303. These people are today nearly extinct in the islands. I am informed by Dr. Beto being crowded out, as we shall see, by the Scandinavian invaders. The effects of cross with the Norsemen is clearly evident. All right, number 107, number 8. On the mainland, this old black breed is still numerous in West Caithness and East Sutherland. All right, and it says here, the hypothesis of an Iberian substratum of population in Britain proved that long before the advent of the Saxons, several distinct physical types coexisted in Roman Britain. One of these, he tells us in the 11th chapter of his Agricola, was the Caledonian, red-haired and tall. The other, that of the Silures in southern Wales, with a dark complexion and curly hair. He also notes the similarity in appearance between the southern Britons and the Gauls, and suggests a Germanic origin for the Caledonians, an Iberian one for the Welsh, and a Gallic one for the English. Right? So these are all different people. But a lot of these people are all dark complexion. This one for the Welsh and Gallic for the English says this is possibly all that he said upon the subject, never having been in the country. Then Jornandes, an early Italian commentator, added fuel to the flame by amending Tacitus' words concerning the Silures of Wales, giving them not only dark complexion but black curly hair. Such were the humble beginnings of the Iberian hypothesis, notwithstanding which it has passed current for generations, as it is founded upon the broadest array of facts. What if we should conclude that the assumption is correct in the light of modern research? All right, in the light of modern research. One more facial type needs to be mentioned. It is monist in Kent and in the Isle of Wight. It is generally ascribed to Jutish ancestry from Jutland. That's Jutish from Jutland, Denmark. Our two upper portraits of page 316 represent this adequately enough. These people are darkish in complexion. The principal peculiarity in their convexity of profile from chin to forehead. The lips are rather thick. The nose is difficult to describe, unless we can agree to call it Jewish. Unless we agree to call it Jewish, right? Whether we may indeed accept it as Jutich. They're letting us know, because that's in Jutland, Judah. That's a lot of the tribes of Judah mixed with the Danites went up there. Again, this is way back. Whether we may indeed accept it as Utes, for we are accustomed to regard the Utes as near relatives of the Anglo-Saxons, and again they did mix with these Sumerians. It's matter of question, it is certainly a noticeable type in the south of East England, where Jute settlements were common. What explanation can be offered for the curiously un-Teutonic population which seems to fringe the coast of Norway, especially centering in the southwest? It is unattainable hypothesis, as in fact Nielsen found it is to ascribe this to the persistence of a substratum of lapse from the Stone Age. These people, to be sure, are characterized by all traits noted in the southwest of Norway, and this moreover to an extraordinary degree. They are almost dwarfed in stature. They are dark-haired and swarthy, all right, swarthy, and as our two portals illustrate, they are broad-headed to an extreme. Their squat faces prove this, even in the absence of anthropometric data. No contrast could be more striking than the between the Lapps and the Teutons. The difficulty, however, in holding them responsible for the cross of physical traits in the Southwest is a very positive one. All right, so it keeps going, but they're swarthy, letting you know. This is in Norway. The description of a reddish oriental type corresponds certainly to the early representations of the Savior. It is the type in features perhaps rather than hair painted by Rembrandt, the Sephardim in Amsterdam being familiar to him, and appealing to the artist in preference to the Ashkenazim type. This latter is said to be characterized by heavier features in every way. The mouth, it is alleged, is more apt to be large, the nose thickish at the end, less often clearly Jewish perhaps. The lips are full and sensual, offering a special contrast to the thin lips of Sephardim. The complexion is swarthy, oftentimes, the hair and eyes very constant dark, without the rufous tendency which appeared in the other branch. The face is at the same time fuller, the breadth corresponding to relatively short and round head. All right. Our second physical type of the Russian Aborigines, all right, now we're talking about the Russian, is the polar extreme from this long-headed red blonde one. We may follow it in our map of the black tints indicating a prevalent broad-headedness. This is best exemplified at the two extremes of Russia, in the Lap of the northwest and the Kalmuk and Kursk hordes of the Caspian steppes. The Samoyeds are merely a continuation of the Lap type towards Asia along the Arctic. These people correspond closely to what we popularly regard as Mongolian. All right, so listen up. The Mongolians, they are all what? All dark or black-haired with swarthy skins. All right, the Aborigines, the Russians, because the Mongolians are really Russians. They're Russian Aborigines. Genghis Khan's real name is Georgy Danilovich. He was Russian. These hordes, these Mongolian hordes with these golden hordes, these Russian armies that were invading. All right, and this guy Georgy or Genghis united these Russian armies, or these kingdoms, what they call it, the story they call it. But these Mongolians, even Genghis Khan was very swarthy, very dark skinned. They are peculiar beardless portraits with a round face, bullet head, high cheekbones, squint eyes, and lank hair they constitute. All right. It keeps going about the Mongols. And down here it says the Armenians claim that these Kurds are of Median origin, but the better opinion is that they are descendants of the Chaldeans. Their affinity to the Syrian Arabs cannot be doubted. These Kurds have remained relatively untouched by the Mongol or Turkish invasions in the retirement afforded by the mountains of Kurdistan. Both in their language and their physical traits, they are Iranian. Chantre, studying them in Asia Minor, reports as to their hard features and savage aspect. Their own derivation of Kurd is from a word meaning excellent, but the Turkish equivalent for it, wolf, seems more aptly to describe their character. They are very dark, with eyes of deep brown tint, the woman darker, as a rule. Our portrait of page 449 is fairly typical. All right, so again, these Armenians, these Kurds are very dark. We are strengthened in this assumption that the earliest Europeans were not only long-headed but also dark-complexioned. By various points in our inquiry thus far, we have proved the prehistoric antiquity of the living Cro-Magnon type in southwestern France, and we saw that among these peasants, the prevalence of black hair and eyes is very striking. In comparing types in the British Isles, we saw that everything tended to show that the brunette populations of Wales, Ireland, and Scotland constituted the most primitive stratum of population in Britain. Furthermore, in that curious spot in Garfagnana, Where a survival of the ancient Ligurian population of northern Italy is indicated, there are also other people characteristically dark, judged therefore either in light of general principles or of local details. It would seem as if this earliest race of Europe must have been very dark. It was Mediterranean in its pigmental affinities and not Scandinavian. All right, and continues says on the islands of the Shetlands, and the Orkneys and Hebrides, the case was much the same. Here, the Aborigines were often entirely replaced by purely Scandinavian population. Such a family with strongly accentuated Norwegian peculiarities is depicted on this page. Its contrast with the Aboriginal dark population, in contrast again with the Aboriginal dark population. The old black breed needs no comment. The old black breed, the Aboriginal dark population. All right, it says here, Fitzner observed the same phenomenon in Alsace, whereas in Britain, a dark population has been overrun by a Teutonic one. So striking was the contrast here that the even ascribes it to real sexual peculiarity. One detail of our map confirms us in this opinion that a primitive dark population in these islands, now mainly of Celtic speech, has been overlaid by a lighter one. Notice the strongly marked island of brunettes just north of London. Two counties, Hertfordshire and Buckinghamshire, are as dark as Wales, and others north of them are nearly as unique. All right, it says the three main physical types in Scotland are well represented by our portraits at page 324. The upper pair, raw-boned and red-headed, is familiar enough, as also the equally tall, heavily built but dark type illustrated in our Moray and Inverness subjects. The middle pair, the little dark man, are representative of probably the oldest element of all in Scotland. All right, who? The little dark man in Scotland. All right, I know, and this was in Ireland too. So if you understand what we're getting at here, we're talking about little dark men in Ireland. What do you think they were calling the leprechauns? What do you think the leprechauns are? Is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah,
All right.
I was when you were saying that the first time. I want to allude to that. That a lot of the stories in Scotland, Ireland, and even throughout the European country land itself, a lot of the folklore stories of fairies and things like that are remnant of the past indigenous aborigines. So yes,
Yes.
the little you can't steal me gold guy. Yes, the little, yes, that's remnant of that as well. When he says little dark man, it's remnant of the little Irish guy. You can't take me gold. The little
Yeah. We're talking about a type of pygmy people, right? That we think only existed in Africa, but no, actually they were in Europe. They're the most primitive people there in Europe with little dark men. They're representative of probably the oldest element of in Scotland. This corresponds closely to Silures of Wales or the small dark Firtbolgs west of Shannon in Ireland. The curly hair shown in both our examples is, I am informed by Dr. Beto, very common among men of this type. All right, so curly little dark men. The presence among the Russian people themselves of a medium stature, dark complexioned, and broad headed majority is acknowledged by all that this represents the original Slavic stock. Slavic was dark complexion. You're talking about Slavs, slaves started with white. No, you gotta understand there was also dark skinned Slavs. Originally, the original Slavics were dark complexion. All right. It's certainly the most logical direct inference. It is, in the opinion, tacitly at least accepted by most of the English writers. All right. That's what is accepted by almost all English writers. All right. Direct evidence as to the former coloration of the Slavs is very scanty. The testimony of the old travelers like Ibrahim Ibn Jakub as to the black hair and the beards of the Czechs, contrasted with the Saxons adduced by Dr. Beto in favor of a dark Slavic origin, is contested by neitherly. The English Jews seem to also to be slightly lighter than their continental brethren, even despite their presumably greater portion of Sephardim, who are supposed to be peculiarly dark, all right, because the Sephardi Jews of Spain and Portugal, they are dark complexion people. As to the relative red blondness of Oriental Jews, the early observation of Dr. Beto and those of Lagerhams, as to the blue eyes and red brown hair of the Druses of Lebanon, while substantiated by some observers, is controverted by Jacobs and others, perhaps as Dr. Beto suggests, a cross with the blonde Amorites, hmm, may account for the phenomenon. At all events, the living Semites are dark enough in type, and all evidence of the sacred books bears out the same theory of an original dark type. Thus, black and hair are commonly synonymous in the early Semitic languages. All right. So yeah, they're trying to say, even in the Bible, they're just trying to say that, these, they're originally dark complexion people, these Semites. All right, these sacred books. And much love to everybody in the chat for still hanging in there. We're almost done, just hang in there. We'll do this last slide and, do part two tomorrow. So hopefully you can tune in tomorrow. All right, again. So let's go to the next. Right, it says The Races of Europe by Carlton Stevens Kuhn. He's a coon. Yeah, he's a coon. He's a literally, he's a coon. All right. Carlton Stevens Kuhn, The Races of Europe. Assistant professor of anthropology, where? In Harvard University. Harvard University. All right. That the Huns came in great numbers cannot be questioned, and that they introduced a completely alien racial type onto European soil is vividly attested by the accounts of numerous contemporary historians, among whom may mention Jordanes, Sidonius, Apollinaris, and Priscus. These authors unanimously describe the Huns as being short, broad-shouldered, like thick-set, swarthy. All right, swarthy. The Huns are swarthy, flat-nosed, slit-eyed, nearly beardless, and bandy-legged. The Avars are described by some authors as being identical with the Huns, but by others as being less horrible of aspect. According to the Byzantine wit Jordanes, the Avars defeated the Iranian-speaking islands, who were descendants of the Sarmatians, right? Remember them? By frightening them with their faces and not by valor. All right. The Samaritans, Samaritans. All right. See the link up? That's why I did that video. I know it's confusing right now, but once I get all these videos, then you gotta be like, oh, okay, these people are these people, or they got with these people, they mix with these people, oh, and they fought with these people. Yeah. So you gotta understand these are different people and nations, right? All right. So what is this right here? All right. This is actually from the Odyssey of Homer, and he's describing one of the people here. Let me see if I can find it. All right, it says, furthermore, right here, a herald attended him a little older than he, and I will tell thee of him too. He's going to describe him. What manner of man he was. He was round shouldered, dark of skin, and curly haired, and his name was Eurybates. And Odysseus honored him above his other comrades because he was like minded with himself. So he spoke, and in her heart arose yet more the desire of weeping. All right, so this is from Homer again, the Odyssey, the book he wrote, and he's describing this guy, Eurybates, as dark skin with curly hair. All right. Again, this is from the Odyssey with an English translation by A.T. Murray, PhD, in 2 volumes from Cambridge, Harvard University Press, 1919. All right. And what we got here? More iconoclasm. But they're showing in Swarthy, right? Saint Columba. Saint Columba. Columba. Columbus. Saint Columba. All right. And what does it say here? Family names from the Irish, Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Norman, and Scotch, considered in relations to their etymology, with brief remarks of the history and languages, peoples to whom we are indebted for their origin, by Thomas G. Gentry. This is from 1892. This guy is author of Life Histories of Birds of Assyrian, Pennsylvania, The House of Sparrow, Notes and Eggs on Bird. All right, so he's a bird specialist, but he also does this on the side. Now it says here, Deaver, originally Duber, from Dub, which means black. Dub, black. Like Dublin, the city of Dublin is the city of black. Dubl, man, a dark complexioned man. Dubur, Duibur, Dub, a dark complexioned man. Deegan, all right. And it says here, Deflin, Dub, black, Lin, marsh, or swamp. Just like moor also means swamp, a wasteland. That's another definition for moor. Just like dub also means a marsh, because you know what? A lot of these dark-skinned people were living along marshes, along and it was becoming associated to them as well. So the word meant a lot more than just meaning a wasteland or a marsh. All right, dub, and we're gonna get to that either today or tomorrow. So dub black lin in March song says dub. Duffy. Duffy is also like duff, duff, dub, pronounced dub or dupe or black. Dub black, an individual, a black person, a black dub. All right. Dougal or Douglas, right? Douglas, right? Douglas from black, dark, glass, green, gray, dark green, dark gray. Dougal. So Douglas means black too. Douglas. Dougal from dub, black, gal, stranger, a black stranger. Dougal from the same roots. All right. And it says here, dub. We already know what? The black. Black. King of Scotland. Black. What do they mean? Black. Nobody's named Black. His name was Dub Mac Male Coloum, or the Black Mac Male Coloum.
Let's not forget the movie that the brother played in called King of Scotland that was played
Yeah.
by Forrest Whitaker. You remember?
Yeah, the king, the new King of Scotland, or something like that.
Yeah, well, you was just played by Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah.
In the movie, he's an African king, but he's called the King of Scotland because of his relation with family members from Scotland.
Exactly. There you go. Subliminal Hollywood. You already know the Hollywood. Because it's reality dub King of Scotland. Black King of Scotland. Dub Mac Mill. What? Dub Mac Mill Coulomb. What? Sometimes anglicized as Dub Mac Malcolm. Called then the Vehement, the Niger. The Black was king of Alba. He was son of Malcolm I and succeeded to the throne when Indulf was killed. Well, we already know Malcolm. What kind of name that is, right? Son of Malcolm. All right, and he was, yeah, a known so-called black Scottish king. All right, this is his genealogy. You can see, like, he's actually a real person in history, you know. And this picture is not even around anymore. They used to have this in Wikipedia. They took it down, but this was a representation that were, I think, making fun of him or something in this book. And that time they did it, the King of Scotland. But when you Google it and the little box on the Google page, you still see this. But when you click on it, it's gone. So I took a screenshot of the little. It says Dub King of Scotland, Dub MacMilk, sometimes anglicized as Dub MacMallan. The Vehement, the Niger the Black was King of Alpha. All right. Dub. We already know that means black. Dub King of Scotland. Dub Macmillan, modern Gaelic Dub. Sometimes anglicized as Dub Macmillan. All right. Was King of Alba. He was the son of Malcolm. We got that. The history of legend of Scotland confirmed the existence of purely black people. We see one of them in the person of Kenneth the Niger. During the 10th century, Kenneth the Niger ruled over 3 provinces in the Scottish Highlands. The archaeologist and writer David McRitchie declared that the Moors dominated Scotland as late as the time of the Saxon kings. He stated with scholarly authority, so late as the 10th century, 3 of these provinces of Scotland were wholly black, and the supreme ruler of these became, for a time, the paramount king of the transmarine Scotland. We see one of the black people, the Moors of the Romans, in the person of King of Alba of the 10th century. History knows him as Kenneth, sometimes as Dub, as the Niger. We know as historic fact that a Niger Valdu has lived and reigned over certain black divisions of our islands, and probably white divisions also, and that a race known as the Sons of the Black succeeded him in history. All right, and this is the Journal of the Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland, volume 17 from 1888. Long before the Roman conquest, the intrusive Aryan Celt had been intermarrying with the older inhabitants of the country, who doubtless belonged to more than one race, the result being that the so-called Celtic race is an amalgamation, all right, of races different physiologically but dominated by a common moral and intellectual character. The consequence of subjection for a long series of generations to the same conditions of life, it has become a commonplace of ethnology that the so-called Celtic race includes not only the fair complexion Aryan Celt, but also the black Celt or Iberian with the dark skin, black hair and eyes and small limbs. The subject, however, is much more complex than this simple division would imply. We have seen that under the red Celt are included two distinct varieties. The black Celt is equally irreducible to the single type, or the fact that two types of red and black recur in the same family. My own, for example, not only indicates their long continued intermixture, but suggests the existence of intermediate varieties. The limitations of the relations of dolichocephalism and brachycephalism within the race also needs further investigation. All right, but they're letting you know in this book that the Celts also were black. These Celts, right? These Celts, black Celts. Says including together the skeletons in the woodcuts and Rotherley villages, all which were Romano Britons. Romano, we're gonna get to that too. The following is the result: Brachycephalic 2, Masitocephalic 10, Dolichocephalic 11, Hyperdoliso. Oh man, 3 in my address to the Archaeological Institute of Salisbury. I have referred to the peculiarities of this district as an ancient ethnical frontier, and to the existence of a small, dark race of people amongst the peasantry at a present time. The practice of burying in the villages, which has been brought to light by my examination of two of them, affords good opportunity to study in the peculiarities of race in Roman times. All right, so again, the little dark race says the Mediterranean type of Italy and Spain, brachycephalic, short, dark, with black eyes, dark hair. This he thinks is Iberic and ultimately Berber. The Slavonic type, brachycephalic, with a short face, short stumpy nose, and little beard. This is the Turco-Tatar or Ugric type. To this type belong the lower classes of Bavaria and southern Germany, who are brachycephalic and dark, while the upper classes are docephalic, tall and fair. The Celts are largely mixed. Some classes are tall and red-haired, others short and dark. The Iranians and Indians originally tall and fair, but much altered by climatic influences. All right, and then this is the Journal of the Anthropological Institute of Great Britain and Ireland, volume 9. All right, and it says here that the Gitnaks or Gitanos or the people from the Gitai area, gypsies who are commonly called in France Bohemians. The former are peaceable and molded in the same civilization as the Basque. The latter, for the most part, lead a nomadic life and are repelled by the inhabitants as thieves and vagabonds, though some lead quite an inoffensive one, like some I saw dwelling at Cyborn, a suburb of Saint Jean de Luz. These are mostly fishermen. They are called Cascarots, a corruption Dr. Gilbert considers a Cas agots. He regards them as African origin. Some of them were very dark and handsome, but not so striking as our gypsies. All right, so right here we got Swarthy. All right, so Swarthy is basically trying to say like Swartz, like Swarthy elves in Norse cosmology. Is Swartilfar is a black elf, Swarthy elves. All right, was what we were just talking about. Also called Mirakil, dark elves, dusky elves, murky elves, are beings who dwell in Swartilfina or home of the black elves. Both the Swartfina or the Swarts are primarily attested in the Prosi Edda, written in the 13th century by Snorri Sturluson. Scholars have noted that the Swartstafali appear to be synonymous with the dwarves and potentially also Dokalfar, dark elves. As as dwarves, the home of Solvitar could possibly be another description of Nova Fleet or dark fields. Alright. And over here it says Megalithes, the Black Builders of Stonehenge. Alright. By Elmer von Fleischer. Just wanted to read this. It says in Scandinavia at least, there is some evidence that the human prototypes of the elves were the short, dark, magic working, uncanny Lapps who were conquered and enslaved by the Gothic invaders of Scandinavia. The Firborgs, Tuatha Danann, the Nemedians, etc. in Irish mythology were pygmies. The first inhabitants of Greenland in the Arctic Circle were the Twa. They are mentioned in Viking sagas such as the Gralendinga saga and the Eldrick saga. Eric the Red found the Twa when he arrived in Greenland. They also inhabited northern Canada and parts of the Newfoundland and Massachusetts. The Norsemen called them Skrellings. All the early commentators described them as being black and of short stature. See, for example, Legrand H. Clerk uh, the second, The Mystery of the Arctic Twa, and Ivan Sertima's African Presence in early Europe. David McRitchie has written in Appendix B of work, The Testimony of Tradition, that the Skrellings were ever situated were pygmies, is evident from the testimony of Olaus Magnus and the accounts of the 11th century Northmen fully corroborate this. All right, this image right here. This is something I grabbed from the internet. I just showing you more, you know, presence of what appears to be people looking like what us, they call so-called Negro, right? And all these potteries and coins and statues from these ancient people in Europe. This area right here is called, actually, they're showing from Bulgaria and all these areas here.
And the
All right.
statuettes look really nice. You can see the little heads. See, it's definitely melanated heads.
Yeah. So let me see. So I kind of like, basically, probably I'm gonna end it right there. And yeah, because I'm gonna continue part two tomorrow. You know. So yeah, these are basically not all of them are Africans. Some people Iberians, because not even in people in Africa were in Africa. A lot of tribes were going into Africa, and it's in their own history. So just because the person in that image from the internet, which is a Pan African website, put African, he just put that because they're dark people and they look Negro to him, and so he put African. Uh, but these people, you can see when I'm trying to show is, in these anthropological books, they trace these people back to certain specific places, whether that's Saxony, Germany, or wherever. Even if it's North Africa, they'll tell you these are specifically North African. These are from Scotland. These are from Norway. These are from France. These are Basque. These are from, the Caucasus. They tell you specifically where they're from. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll go ahead and go live again tomorrow a little bit earlier. Just finished up. I got 2 or 3 more slides of presentation. I got some good books to read. I want to show and link some. There's a reason why I'm showing you guys this, and I know a lot of people not gonna want to admit it. They're not gonna want to accept it because they already said, I'm 100% Indian, and that's it. All right, so it's good for you, but you're gonna ignore certain relatives. You don't know how much percentage of it is, whether it's 80% or 20% or 10%, 5%. There's still a history there. you know I'm not saying all of you are or not. I'm just saying you got to individually do your genealogy. All right, and accept what's in your genealogy. So I'm just showing this again, um, to correlate what I got coming, just so you guys get a better understanding when we're talking about Europeans coming over, or what we talk about freedmen. A lot of these freedmen were black Europeans. A lot of these freedmen were black Europeans. That's why they were freed. They were indentured servants. So the difference between free people of color and freed men, those two terms are very different. Free people of color, a lot of those people weren't ever enslaved. They were just free people of color. Compared to a freed man, he got freed from his indenture. Right? So, that's also a lot of those so-called, what they were calling Africans that ran away and mixed, and they're what they're calling, the Maroons, or these runaways and mixing with Seminoles, supposedly. Right? There's a whole deep history here, is what I'm trying to say. And I guess if you want to ignore that part, then that's fine, man. But I'm gonna show it. That's don't practice cognitive dissonance too, just because you don't agree with it. Or I would embrace it. Like if I find any part of history in my family, like, oh, that's cool. Well, what you're saying, I'm Basque? Oh, okay. Let me learn about the Basque. Who are they? Who are they? Or what was there? It was if it's 1%, 3%. I'm not talking about DNA here percentages. I'm just
Well,
saying,
yeah,
like.
I want to comment on some of what you're saying since you're gonna be in it a little bit
Yeah,
in reference to what you're saying. I totally agree with you saying, my brother. That genealogy is the number one thing that people need to realize that's important. But in that being said and stated, let me also say this: you got some people who that if they feel they have might have African, or they might feel they got a European, and they might not feel but know that they have European in their bloodline, and they don't know, but they was raised here in the Americas, and they might feel like they don't know what to choose, or who should I choose? I guess it doesn't matter what I choose. And in that position, what I like to encourage people to realize is that it's about culture. If you was born and raised in the Americas, and half your family or more than half your family or even less than half your family is from the Americas, but you were born and raised here in the Americas, is your choice if you want to choose the Aboriginal culture to follow, because this is
hmm,
where you was raised.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
culture is all about locality. Culture is all about locality. If your ancestors are from that locality, and the other half of your ancestors, because my wife, she's Cherokee, and the other half of her family on her mother's side are Europeans. They're actually, her family comes from Norway. They're from Swedes and Norse on her white side of her family. But her indigenous side of her family, which is her father's side, which is right here from America, right here from the South, from Louisiana and Mississippi. But my wife chooses to embrace her Aboriginal side because she was raised here in America. She was not raised in Europe, even though a lot of her white family is from Europe. She's not. She was raised here in the Americas, and her father is here from. So she embraces her American Aboriginal culture as her main identity. And so that's why I just want to insert that.
Yeah, and my whole purpose, my channel, if you see, the videos I've made is to make you realize that you might be more aboriginal to America, than African, right? So again, like I said in the beginning, we're in this journey of learning. I'm still, and I'm learning a whole lot, and even helping with people's genealogy. I'm seeing it. So, and I'm seeing families owning farms and not slaves at all, or being slaves, or having their own servants, and last names that are English, Scottish, Irish. And there's a history behind that. It's not all slave masters. Is what I'm trying to say. There's not always a slave master, and
And I'm pretty sure, brother Kurimeo, that you've heard of some of the stories where you had some white people, who might have were stolen from white families, and they were raised by American Aboriginal Indians. Well, when that and I've read stories, and when that person became an adult and they went amongst their white counterparts, they felt more closer to the Indian people. So that white man felt he was Indian because he was raised with Indian amongst Indian people. So he felt his culture, even though he knew biologically he was a European, but because he was raised with American Aboriginal Indians, he felt a stronger family bond, and so he claimed that as a culture. So it's all about culture, what you choose as a culture.
yeah, exactly. And like I say, go follow your heart and your spirit, right? And I'm just saying, there might be a whole side that you might, be able to know about, and don't reject it, and just do your own individual stuff. That's what I'm saying. And you gotta, if you truly want to know. If you don't want to know, then you don't want to know. That's it, man. If you're happy with what you want to be, it's fine. I'm showing history, and this is again not anything personal. I'm just trying to show when I'm talking about Europeans, you got to break that thinking that they're all white when I'm saying European, because that's something that we all do. And I have to kind of remind everybody, be like, oh well, I'm not talking about just pale skinned people. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah, I forgot, they all, or they're like, so that's what I'm trying to do, is just, you gotta always go case by case. Don't generalize. That's my whole point. And don't generalize in any way. All right, you're 100% this. All right, fine. Fine. Yeah, the one person must be in the earth that's just 100% pure. You know. So congratulations. But it doesn't. I'm not even talking about complexion. See, that's the thing. So you know, but either way, you know, everybody has their own journey, right? Everyone has their own heart to follow. So
Yeah.
take the information and use it how you want. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. And I appreciate you, brother, for like staying the whole 2 or 3 hours that I'm here
Hey,
and
brother, I'm just
joining me.
always honored that you allowed me to be a part of what you're doing because I love what you do, and you know, you're teaching the people to basically to be researchers. I mean, you might not consider yourself a researcher. I'm not talking about you, brother Kamir, because we all know you are. But anybody who's listening to this, if you might not consider yourself a researcher, and you don't have to be necessarily a researcher like brother Kurimeo or me or anybody else, but it's important to research your family tree to know the truth about who you are. That's that's important, man. I mean, so far myself and I've only went up to 1850, and I'm trying to go further. I've ran into some roadblocks, but I'm not gonna let those roadblocks stop me. If I find somebody in my family tree that's of European or African descent, I'm gonna be honest about that. So far, I've only found Indians in my family tree, but if I find somebody that's of African, or I'm gonna accept that. That's a reality that we have to accept, and we have to embrace the truth of who we are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's basically that's what I'm saying. And again, appreciate everybody coming through and showing some love and tuning in. Again, I'm not trying to be controversial or anything. You know that my whole point is to just show a history that we didn't get shown in school. You know, we were probably would have had different conclusions growing up and done different things and seen the world a whole lot different and maybe each other a lot different and less separated. And that's the whole point because we like to separate a lot and we like to sometimes we might not even do it consciously, but we stereotype and be prejudiced against other people for what they look like. Um, maybe say, well, I'm not talking about you, Kurimeo, but it's not about me. It's because I don't care about me. I don't know. I'm not my feelings. I'm here doing videos on other things. I don't let people draw me back. It's just in general, and it's not it's not personal. This is all just history. It's just history, and like I'm trying to say is we're students. I'm still learning. We're all students. It doesn't end. You don't just end. That's my point. You got to keep going. You might find out a whole lot about yourself. You know. So yeah, we got part 2 and 3 probably coming after this because I want to correlate this with a lot of things. I got a lot of good videos coming. All right. What you know about Alexander Hamilton? What we find out about Abraham Lincoln. What you know about Harding, all these people. Thomas Jefferson. What you know about Washington. You know, that's what I'm trying to explain to you guys. You think it was just Lincoln? All right. So we know it exists. All right. It's real. These are real people. These are Yoruba Swarthy. All right. Again, the title of this video, Swarthy Europe and its Aboriginal Inhabitants, Part 1. All right. So we're going to end it there. I'm going to end it maybe with a song here so we can just groove as we go out. All right. But thank you, brother, for joining me, and I appreciate everybody for the love, for the support, the donations. Me and my family are very grateful for that. All right. Hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Much love. Pura vida. Pure life.